Okay, we're gonna bring this meeting to order. This time I'll give the invocation and the pledge. Bow your head, please. Well, we ask you to have your hand on this meeting tonight as we meet to conduct the county's business. We ask you to give a special blessing for all the veterans for Memorial Day this past weekend. And we look over their families, the ones overseas. And Lord, we ask you to have your hand on this country as a whole. There's some things happening in this country today that never thought I'd see in the United States of America. And we just ask you to bring this country back to being one nation under God. In this name, in your name we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before I get approval of the agenda, Belmont Academy will not be on the agenda tonight. I don't think they're here. So with
That's
that,
a deletion.
we're gonna be deleting Belmont. So with saying that, do we have any additions or deletions?
We do not.
No additions or deletions?
Just
Okay,
one.
can I get approval for,
So move.
Second.
got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time we'll ask Don Savoy. I'm sorry, yeah, Don Savoy, yeah. Annual presentation.
Good evening, Commission. Unfortunately, Don Savoy is at a meeting in St. Augustine with Department of Children and Family Secretary, so I'm here to represent him. So he apologizes for not being here. I'm Alan Paulin. I'm the Senior Vice President of Clinical and Community Services at Meridian Behavioral Health Care. Yes, Paulin. Many of you may know that Meridian has been serving our communities for quite some time, since 1971, and we address a broad range of individual and community needs that focus on problems associated with mental health and substance abuse disorders for adult and children. Our mission is to promote the health, recovery, and well-being of those affected by mental illnesses and substance use disorders through prevention, coordinated treatment, and supportive services. Our vision is that hope, recovery, and wellness are within everyone's reach. We carry this out by providing evidence-based treatment and partnering with the community to address the challenges that it faces. Meridian has been providing telehealth services for approximately 5 or 6 years. With the onset of the COVID, we increased that by 500%, and this past year we served 1,144 Columbia County residents for a total of 3,816 telehealth services. And the benefits of telehealth, providing telehealth, is faster access to treatment. The persons can be seen in the comfort of their own home, cuts down on a lot of travel for families that are struggling with gas money. Also, prescriptions are being sent electronically to pharmacy to keep another step down for people that are working through their issues. And also, we have extra tablets that clients with no device to use telehealth services. They may qualify to get a tablet so they can access services, and that also comes with the data plan at no cost. This next slide demonstrates the demographics of who we serve in Columbia County, and this is for our past fiscal year up until March, collecting data from the beginning of the fiscal year in July 2020. So you can see that we serve ages all the way, actually from birth for infant mental health, which centers focuses a lot around the mother, how she's doing and how the baby is developing, all the way up past 65. The majority of our services are for ages 18 to 64, approximately 65%, and 30% from the child and adolescents from 6 years old to 17.
Got a question on that slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
The second highest number on that slide is 23%, and you say unknown. When a person comes in, you don't get that.
It is a very unusual data that we've seen throughout the years that people, for whatever reason, they choose that one, and we've double checked and triple checked that, but this continually comes up on our data. So whether, the people either don't want to answer that one and they choose a different one, or for whatever reason, maybe they have mixed heritage or something like that. But that's a very good question. That is something that we track down and it keeps coming up. So this is a slide. Basically, we say in the field a continuum of care, but basically what that does, it breaks it down. We start on the prevention level, working with the schools to help the children with coping skills, making good decisions, communication, and those types of issues. So we have evidence-based packages for those in the schools. And also on the other spectrum, if you actually are having a mental health crisis, if you feel that you're having thoughts of suicide or you're a threat to yourself or someone else due to your mental health issue, we have the acute inpatient care here in Lake City. And on the more intensive treatment, we have also residential treatment for adolescents with substance abuse and mental health issues. And also we have a program, residential substance abuse for mothers, pre and postpartum, who are struggling with substance abuse issues. They're involved with child welfare system. We bring them into care. They're able to stay with their child. They can have their other children visit, and for helping them through their substance abuse issues while also promoting positive parenting skills so they can bond with their child, work on their own relapse prevention issues, so when they leave, they'll be able to be self-sufficient. We also have jail diversion programs, keeping people out of jail or violating probation with support when they have mental health and substance abuse issues. Psychiatric helps with the medication to complement what's going on in therapy. And also our medication-assisted treatment is for those with opioid addiction, and we can provide that on an outpatient basis, methadone dosing, which also includes therapy as well. And we also have a variety of family services-oriented programs with child welfare to help keep the family intact when the children are being neglected or not being cared for properly due to substance abuse in the home. Any questions at that part? I would, if the board would be okay, if I could bring up Latifa Ragandan. She's our vice president of outpatient services up here in this area, and she would like to talk to us a little bit about our mobile response team and our child action teams for about a minute or two, if that's okay.
Be fine.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do Meridian, through a mental health program, assist law enforcement? One of the things that happens is, for some reason, we put law enforcement in a bad situation dealing with mental health. Most time, the officer is not trained to deal with mental health. Do you guys assist the sheriff when there's a mental health issue on someone that they are going to take care of?
Yes, we do on two different levels. The one that we have is a mobile response team where we're on call 24/7. If there's somebody is dealing with a mental health crisis, we're able to be on the scene within an hour. And actually, Latifa goes out on those calls as well. She could talk about that. We have something also that's more stepped up, though it is in Alachua County. It's contingent on funding or grants that we've been able to pull in. But what it is, we have a ride-along therapist that rides along with the law enforcement officer. And when a call comes in where 911 sees that it's a mental health issue, they will be the first ones to respond to that if at all possible. And that's been very successful. We could even contact you and do a separate presentation on that. But what it does, it reduces the Baker Act. So if you think of a child having to go into an inpatient facility, that can be very traumatic. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the only thing we can do to keep the child safe, but it's also, we're able to divert a lot of those. And also the same thing for adults. Okay. So that has been growing. The funding for that is out there. We will certainly be on the lookout for any additional grants. And we can talk with law sheriffs here and the chief of police as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Latifa Ranganadan, and I'm the VP for Outpatient Services for the North. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about, just highlight a couple of our programs. And one of them is our CAP program, which is a community action team. The program provides a team approach with a multidisciplinary team consisting of a therapist, a mentor, a case manager, a nurse, and a doctor. We work together with the client, the family, and to manage issues, teach them coping skills. We're trying to keep the family together at home. It increases socialization. They learn how to manage their kids better, parenting skills, that kind of stuff. We actually teach them at times, the nurse will come in and teach them some cooking classes they will do with them, sort of. They cook with them, teach them some education, so it's pretty good, and the family can stay together. Alan mentioned briefly about the mobile response team, one of my favorites. This program services all ages and are experiencing, anybody who's experiencing a crisis. Our team can visit the client within the hour or immediately over the phone or telehealth. We try whatever the comfort for that client. If they don't want you to come out to the home because they get very nervous, and if they don't want law enforcement, that's okay. We try to work with them. The whole idea is to prevent them from getting Baker Act and to keep them at home in the community. One of the things I want to talk about quickly is that we are providing summer camp or summer programs to our kids in Columbia County. We're starting June 8th to the 24th and July 12th to the 29th. We currently have about 12 kids signed up, and that's going to be Monday through Thursday. Okay, thank you.
What kind of services do you offer to the kids? I mean, it's the program, what do they do?
We do social skills. We do play therapy with them based on their age, the preventative, whatever, proper touching, what's considered something for you to report, that kind of stuff. It's based on their age group.
What
So
age group? What age group is this?
We are starting with 9 to 13, I believe.
9 to 13?
Correct.
And is this a free program to the kids?
It is.
It is.
Yes, we've been doing it for years.
And how long does the program run?
It's, again, June 8th to the 24th, and then the school is out. We're going to go with the full summer program of the school. We're following their schedule.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that time, for that. Thank you, Latifa. Okay. Moving right along, we just have a few more slides here. So of course, when we're working with the clients, we want to make sure what the actual impact is from the dollar spent and for the actual benefit of the people, children, and families we're serving. And so we do monitor that. We use state-approved tools as well as our own, and we do have an approved functioning and reduction of symptoms. 60% of adults and 80% of children. The earlier you can get in when we start to recognize warning signs with children, the better, because actually in middle school, if that's not addressed, it really has a high percentage of turning into a lifelong struggle with mental health. So that's one thing we really want to focus on. And the whole part is getting their functioning up and getting their reducing their symptoms. When you look at national benchmarks for mental health treatment, recovery rates for severe mental illness range from 40 to 60%. So we're proud that we are actually improving or above that. And recovery rates for addiction range from 40 to 50%. And when we track ours, we're at the 50% and a little bit over for that component of it. But we're always looking at our services. We're always looking at the best practices. We go to a lot of trainings, attend a lot of trainings to make sure that we're staying up with the best approaches. And just as a marker for comparison, when you have issues with medical, such as diabetes, hypertension, or other chronic illnesses, that's about 40 to 60%. So unfortunately, we're not going to impact everybody. We wish it was that straightforward, but we do have a good percentage rate for improving that functioning. And you can see some of those on the side, some very positive. I won't go through all of those for the sake of time, but you can see we have those are from our customer satisfaction surveys. 89% would recommend to others, and 93% feel that the staff care and that they benefited from treatment. Okay, so how do we get paid? We accept a wide range of payers, ensuring that the local funds and the public funds are the payer of last resort. So we'll bill insurance whenever possible. The unfortunate part of when people do come in with insurance, a lot of times their plans will not cover what it won't be on their plan, or their copay is so high it's something they can't afford. So we work with them whatever way possible to make sure that they're cared for. For Columbia County, the majority of those we see are at below federal poverty guidelines, and that's 88% of the Columbia County residents. Any questions on the funding? And that leads us to our funding requirements, and what we are required to do by the state is to generate local matching funds. And so I'm making this presentation so you know what that is for. Last year, Columbia County assisted us with very generous of $245,000 in local matching funds. And that is in Columbia County is 12.5% of our overall service area. And you can see that component right above it. The total amount for the agency is on that top paragraph, and where Columbia comes in with the 245. And this year we are requesting a 2.5% increase of that 245,000 due to the increase in services that we've been providing to Columbia County. That is our request. So we would appreciate that consideration. And that would bring the total match for this coming year of $250,000. Any questions?
Question going back to the payers. It's sort of kind of shocking to see that 25% have some form of insurance, but insurance only pay 8.4% of the services that individuals need to receive. Why are there such a low rate that the insurance companies pay for the services provided for this type of care?
The main reason is, even though there's the discussion about parity, where a plan will pay for certain services for physical and it should be matched with the mental health, it still has not come to fruition when you actually have the plans. Also, the plans may have limited, so someone could come in with an insurance and the insurance company will say, we'll pay for 4 sessions. So if that person can work through that copay, and we work with them on very easy terms for them to so we don't have to turn anyone away. This insurance company may say, well, we'll pay for 4, but we're not going to pay any more. Even if we give them a very strong clinical foundation of why this person is going through complex trauma or has had all kinds of stuff going on in their life, really heavy addiction, and it takes longer than that. So what happens is, even though we have insurance, that runs out. That is one of the main drivers for that component of it.
Okay.
So really, the insurance plans fall short in a nutshell.
Well, I do know this, that mental health is always underfunded. It's a very serious problem that affects the likes of everybody, rich, poor, black, white, whatever, is a serious issue. And I've been a big supporter of Meridian and these mental health services that they provide. There's never enough money, but every penny that is spent in mental health is a great asset to this community. And I just want to say I appreciate what Meridian has done over the years, and I, for one, that any way that we can always help to increase the amount of our contribution, I'm always all in for it.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words and realization and the knowledge of what that can save. Because when you get in early, like we said, that's why we're so glad to be working with the school system and being in there early and engaging with families. Because just like a medical issue, the earlier you get in for the prevention, self-care, where something is going wrong, to get in there early, you're going to have a better outcome. And the longer that goes untreated, the more likely they are set up for substance abuse issues, which of course is going to impact them. But to your point, mental health is very prevalent. It affects at any given time about 20% of the population. And I think it's safe to assume that all of us, whether it's a friend or family member, extended family, someone neighbor, knows if someone's struggling with mental health or substance abuse.
And you always, if you're my age or older, you can remember back in the old days, if there was a family with a loved one that had a mental illness, they say shut up in the house. Kind of tucked away somewhere where nobody could see them or be next to them. And over the years, that have changed, and we accept a mental illness, and we just need to deal with the treatment for it.
That's absolutely correct. The stigma is not anywhere near the way it used to be. It is still out there, and that's one of the things we do with our prevention. We teach mental health first aid classes to help the general person who's not trained in mental health how to look for early warning signs and what to do in a crisis, or how to engage with someone and coach them up to give them that courage to talk to a therapist or something like that. But it is an ongoing struggle.
Does on the indigent side of it, I'm not putting Dale on the spot, but does the hospital authorities, do they participate in the different counties? I mean, do they get any funding from them?
That money that they have, I think they call it the ship dollars for their indigent care, that is not shared with us. They keep that for their own uncompensated care with the hospitals. And we are been reaching out, working. Whenever we get a special grant, because really where everything is moving is that all the community agencies are working together. And the hospitals and emergency rooms, if somebody shows up with a severe issue and they're Baker acted, and they may even have a medical issue at the same time, they show up in an emergency room, a local hospital. As soon as they're medically cleared, they can come over to Meridian to deal with the mental health component of that. But there's no money that comes from us, from the hospitals, unless it's a special contract for a service that we're providing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions, boys?
Good.
You have anything else?
No, sir. That's all. I
Don't have any
appreciate you
questions
having us
for
today.
Mr. Savoy?
Thank you. A 2% increase is a reasonable ask. I think will be favorable to you at budget time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, let's move ahead to Joe.
Maybe health insurance would be that reasonable stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Don't count on it.
Yeah, really.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. The adoption hearing for tonight is on ordinance 2021-08, amending the county's citation program. An ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Columbia County, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 3 of the County Code of Ordinances to better facilitate issuance of citations for civil infractions by expanding the definition of code enforcement officer and providing an effective date. The draft ordinance was attached in the memo packet. I'm happy to address any questions. If there aren't any, then I would ask the chair to open public hearing.
Any questions? I think we went over this our second
Yes, sir.
hearing.
You could open public hearing.
Okay, thank you. We'll open public hearing at this time. Anybody want to speak? No one, seeing no one want to speak, we'll close the public hearing.
If there's a motion.
Sheriff, I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 2021-08.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. For approval
Also
of
move.
consent agenda.
Also move to adopt the consent agenda.
Got a second.
So move.
All in, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Move ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the discussion agenda for this evening is a proposed resolution supporting creation of a citizen advisory board. On February 4th, 2021, Sylvester Warren made a presentation to the board requesting the board's support for the creation of a citizen advisory board, or CAB. Mr. Warren acknowledged that the board does not have the authority to require the sheriff to create a CAB, but nevertheless, he requested the board's consideration of a recommendation that the sheriff establish a CAB. Mr. Warren discussed 3 iterations of CABs he has observed across the country. Each commissioner expressed willingness to learn more about the CAB, but also noted deference to the sheriff and law enforcement matters and expressed general support for a purely advisory body. The commissioners indicated a desire to obtain input from the sheriff before supporting the creation of a cab and say they were not opposed to a cab but wanted to learn more about it. I advised the board at that time that I would have Mr. Warren provide me with an example of the sort of cab structure he was proposing. Mr. Warren provided that to me, and I attached it to the agenda packet, as well as a resolution that would reflect the board's support for creation of a cab. This resolution does not create a cab and does not compel the sheriff to create a cab. It expresses support for the cab Mr. Warren had suggested. I do also want to note for the commissioners, I have had several conversations with Sheriff Hunter, and he is not supportive of the resolution as phrased. He is here this evening to answer any questions you may have, but he did authorize me to share that with you at this juncture.
Sure.
Are there any questions about the draft? I think you had a lot of comment cards.
Sheriff, would you like to come up at this time and address this?
I do public comment.
Or you want to do public comment first? Okay, we'll do public comment at this time. Anybody have public comment on? Yeah, I think we're gonna do public comment first. So this time we'll have public comment.
Sweet.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. My name is Leonard Johnson, and I'm speaking in behalf of the Citizen Advisory Board. In the 21st century in which we live, well, I guess it's 22nd century, there have been issues throughout this country regarding policing. One of the more effective ways of dealing with the issues that come up with policing is to have a Citizen Advisory Board. I think it's outrageous for anybody to make a statement about defunding the police. Again, I think that's outrageous. What we need to do is give police more funding. And this funding should be able to address issues such as mental health, which has been a discussion this evening. And you can see that it is something that is very lowly serviced in our communities throughout this country. And I think mental health is an issue that often police officers find very, very difficult to assess and confront. So I'm certainly in favor of allowing police officers to be trained and given more information about dealing with people with mental health issues. The advisory board allows for transparency and objectivity. Police officers do outstanding work. They are necessary in every community. Sometimes police officers don't always make the best judgment in handling a particular matter. And it has been proven throughout this country that self-policing is probably not the ideal solution when things go awry. When a police officer make a bad decision, there's always going to be an issue in the public's mind of whether it was done or if it's going to be handled correctly in investigating what was done, how it was done, when it was done, and all of that kinds of things. I pay enough attention and read enough information to know that sometimes the public information that is provided is in serious error. There has been numerous instances in our country where police departments and sheriff offices have given the public wrong information about what actually happened in an incident. I think in those cases, a citizen advisory board is the best solution to the problem. I think county commissioners or city commissioners choosing people out of their districts that are objective, law-abiding, upstanding, objective in their handling of matters when there is a discrepancy about what happened in a police matter is the way to go. If we do nothing, it sends the wrong message. In fact, being a person who's extremely concerned about policing in this country, one of the things that I would ask if I moved to a different community, and I have no intentions of leaving Columbia County, which I love, is that I would ask, is there a citizen advisory board? Because there have been so many instances where people have not been handled correctly by the police. And there has to be something that addresses it appropriately. Because if you don't, you get a situation in which people get angry. You could end up with riots. You can end up with all kinds of things that I would never want to happen in Columbia County. Because earlier meeting, you were talking about infrastructure. What good would it have to have infrastructure when we have people burning it down because they're angry because they weren't given a fair address
Mr.
when
Johnson,
a matter was not handled in the way that it should have been handled?
Mr.
So I
Johnson, you
just
need to
think
wrap it
it's-
up now.
Was it?
You, 2-minute clock went off. You need to wrap it up, please.
All right. Well, the issue is, I think having a citizen advisory board bring more eyes to a situation. I think we can reduce the incidence of people not trusting and believing in the police, which we all need. And that's the whole point of it. And I think we should always be willing to do something to make that better in any community, including ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a card for Be Faithful Coker.
Have what? What he said?
Did anybody have any comments for Mr. Johnson? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing citizens to provide comment on this rather serious topic. I think that we often, okay, Be Faithful Coker. The police and sheriff's office has two separate sets of standards, training. It's not the same. It's easy for us to look at what we see in the media for law enforcement and cast just a very wide wand that whatever's happening at the police department is happening at the sheriff's office, is happening at federal agents, FDLE. It's not the same. I've had numerous interactions with our police department, our sheriff's department, with state law enforcement agencies, and I'm a citizen that believes that the interactions were commendable. I haven't always had greatest personal relationships with law enforcement, yet I have a 25-year-old son who treats law enforcement as if they're his extended arm to keep an eye on his mother. I appreciate and have always appreciated that they have exercised extreme care and concern for not just my children, but for children in the community. A citizens advisory board, I don't support, and I don't support because there's still some more effort we need to extend to reduce crime. We have criminals telling elected officials how to behave. We have criminals serving as go-to contact people in communities. And until citizens are given the right amount of information to know where they need to turn their questions, their requests for resources, we have some other things to deal with before we start putting citizens in a capacity to provide oversight to law enforcement. I'd like to implore the criminals, former or otherwise, to reduce crime, to work with other criminals to help reduce crime so that my children are safe, so that other people's children are safe, so that law enforcement can get back to that serving part of the relationship, because they didn't just come on to protect. The other part of it is and to serve. And so I'd like to see us work toward creating programs that foster healthy relationships between law enforcement so that students, children, communities feel comfortable interacting and it's not an aggressive type of exchange. I felt absolutely embarrassed watching that viral video that circulated around the United States displaying one of our elected officials aggressively interacting with our law enforcement. That was deplorable. That's the type of thing that occurs when we don't have accountability, and it works both ways. It's not just about holding law enforcement accountable. It's also about holding citizens accountable. We need to reduce crime so that we can interact, we can be in an environment where we feel safe, and then we can get to some other needs of allocation of resources and whether or not there needs to be some more oversight. So I hope this resolution is not one that our county commissioners support, endorse, and that you send a very strong message that there are a set of priorities, and the priorities are not to elevate citizens to some authority over law enforcement. We have other things to deal with. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody,
Thank you.
you got any comments from Ms. Coker? I was just asking the board if they had any comments. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, I have Derek Sneed.
Hi, my name is Derek Sneed. I spoke at the Lake City meeting that they had as far as a advisory board. I went over by far 2 minutes. So if I'm stuck to 2 minutes, I'm going to make this obviously a little bit more condensed than I had planned to. My experiences with the Columbia County Sheriff's Department are awful. I'm a landowner. I run my business here in Columbia County, and I can just tell you that there's no accountability. You know, there is no transparency. I mean, I've asked for videos. I've read police reports that are just flat out falsehoods. I think somebody mentioned last time, you know, you shouldn't say the word lie, but seriously, that's what it is. The flat out lie in a police report, and there's no accountability for that officer because they get to hide behind words like sovereign immunity. You know, when you file a police report or try to file a police report against them or to refute what they said, they won't take a report from me, you know, and I've tried this many times. But I can tell you that, you know, my interactions, there's this right here. That's an officer lighting me up. Okay, I'm on the ground. He had no reason to do that. But what happened is my tenant called in and said I was robbing the house. But yet I was working there and I have a green drill on the ground. One of the Ryobis. We all know what color green it is. By far, it's not even clear to be a weapon. Lights me up. And the reason that I have this is because no matter where I go or what I do in anywhere, realistically, I always have somebody with me that's either got a camera or is to support me in case of something exactly like this, because it's happened to me more than once. And I'm not a criminal. I have a criminal history because of what I would call bad cops, but I don't have a criminal record. Everything that has happened to me in the end with the state attorney gets dropped. But this is nonsense. I have a current case right now that's with the state attorney's office because Deputy Harvey decided to lie, say that I broke into a house and that I robbed it. And all the while that he's interrogating my tenants, swears at 10 o'clock at night, I'm actually out in the woods hiding from him. Well, let me tell you something. If I was there, I would be hiding from him from what I've learned from him since then about sicking his dog on people. But yet the text messages that he was sending me, I told him in those text messages to do your job, to DCF document what's going on in the property, that I am not coming over there because the first thing out of your mouth was, I need to come over there, and if I don't, he would put a warrant out for me. And in the end, I told him about.
Okay, we don't need to relive a case or a thing.
Well, this is exactly why we need
I understand. Okay.
oversight board. Okay, and it's all about accountability, transparency, and as far as things that, you know, need to be dealt with from the public perspective, this is a public issue. You know, we might have some people that do have good experiences with the officers, but mine's one instance, and I'm sure we're going to hear of a few more, but this is ridiculous to not have oversight. And then let me just leave you with this. What would it hurt to have that? You have other places that are, I wouldn't, the word's not right, but more modern or more to this day that have the police oversight boards. They're becoming more and more prevalent. Why not? What's it going to hurt? Lake City's going to have it, and thank goodness that they are. But why wouldn't you want to have the oversight board? Because you know what's going to happen? This right here, which, you know, I'm over my 2 minutes. I'm going to serve this to every one of you later. This is a copy of my lawsuit against you guys for what the officers have done to me. But if you had an oversight board, that might prevent this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snead.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a extreme problem because if you want to get up and debate the merits of the CAB or not, that's fine. But we can't have people getting up here, calling out officers by name, stating details of cases, just trashing the police department, telling one side of the story when you know legally the other side in this forum can't be told. So this is not the forum to levy those type of accusations.
I'd love to give you the police reports.
This is not the forum for that.
You're out of order, sir. You want to sit down, please. Please sit down or you'll be removed. Look here, we're not starting this tonight. You're not going to get up and just speak out when you want to. No, I'm not. I'm talking to the whole crowd. I'm just telling you, you need to sit down and not be speaking out for the audience. Okay. Vanessa George.
I'm not coming up here to try to convince you for a citizen review board, Vanessa George, 930 Northeast Joe Corner, because your minds are already made up. We could tell by your body language. When Mr. Johnson was up here, Tim Murphy was twirling in his chair, y'all looking all down, your mind is already made up. You are very disrespectful to the citizens. If it wasn't made up, and listen, we want to hear from our sheriff. He is our sheriff, whether we on two different sides of the fence or not. But for you to say no, 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 before you just already had your mind up. We should have listened to the sheriff. We want to hear his point of view as well. And then when we wanted to come after him, let's hear what he had to say. Y'all shot it down because your mind is already made up. Y'all are very disrespectful to citizens that are coming in here. Everybody that came up here and spoke against for a citizen review, you cut them off. You couldn't wait. You had your hand on the mic. You couldn't wait to cut them off. But when Be Faithful came up here and spoke and said what y'all want to hear, y'all was all attentive and y'all let her ride out until she was finished. That's very disrespectful. And I know you don't care. And it showed.
Sylvester Warren.
Sylvester Warren, 832 Northeast Richardson Terrace. Well, let's just dive right on into it. It's very unfortunate. It's very disrespectful that the voting citizens ask you all to let the sheriff speak so that we can have an opportunity to comment after he gives his spiel. What's extremely unfortunate is that I've gotten word, and the sheriff has been bragging about it for the last few weeks, that he's got enough votes on the commission to shoot down the resolutions. He's bragging about it. We share quite a few mutual friends. And so I know I'm just spinning my wheels up here. I know the minds are made up. He brags about it quite regularly. However, it's very unfortunate that Sheriff Hunter told the county attorney to tell the public before even wanting to discuss or even having a conversation with us, meaning us citizens, that he's not for a citizen review board. Leonard Johnson is a pastor. He came up here. I asked him earlier, is there anything sinful about a citizen review board? He said no. Last time I spoke to the county commissioners back in February, when Mr. Bowman was bit by a dog, we had a very cordial conversation before some of the commission was all butthurt about some comments that I made toward them that politicians should have thick skin. And I called y'all out on some stuff that was 100% true. We don't get so upset with the messenger, at least in my opinion, that we kill what's important for the community as a whole, which is a citizen review board. Think about this, Robin, Mr. Hollingsworth, Commissioner Hollingsworth. Remember the conversation that we had where the sheriff tried to get both me and you to agree on separate occasions that it was okay for that officer to punch Terry Glenn while he was handcuffed? That's not cool. I said it wasn't cool to the sheriff. I mean, the sheriff had that conversation at the Richardson Community Center, in which I thought having that conversation, me and the sheriff was going to end up fighting because I don't stand for that. You would never convince me that it's okay to punch a handcuffed person. Robbie, you agreed with me at that time. Another point, Mr. Bowman. Mr. Bowman having a dog illegally sicked on him and bit down to the bone, had multiple surgeries, is not right. And there's countless and countless incidents. And far too often, it happens in my neck of the woods and people who look like me. I'm not saying that all people look like me that this happens to, but far too often, this happens. And so when the county commissioners, because, you know, we vote too, and many of us live in your district, and we're saying, hey, look, help us out here. Give us a citizen review board. And if the sheriff doesn't have anything to hide, and if everything is squeaky clean, the body cameras would prove it and the citizen review board would prove it. Nothing is wrong with more transparency. Even in y'all government with David Krause, y'all have levels of transparency and more level of transparency. We talk about transparency all the time. So now this board who seems to be extremely conservative and always care about transparency, but when it comes to the sheriff, we're gonna just give him a pass on transparency. Every time I talked to y'all before y'all got all butthurt about my comments, we talked about transparency. We talked about accountability. What's wrong, Rob? You can't look at me in my eyes and recall the
all day long.
Yeah, and recall the conversations that we had, partner, before our friendship ended. You don't remember the conversations that we had and the times that we talked about the sheriff, and we don't always agree with the sheriff, and we talked about these issues that we have in the community. You serve the community as well as I do. You bond a whole lot of people out in the community, and you know that the practice of law enforcement ain't always right. And I'm not saying it's always bad, but I'm saying, and we agreed that a citizen review board would be a happy medium to the issues that we face in that community.
Nobody is always right. Police officers either.
Right.
There's a lot of people that mess up. There's bad cops, there's good cops.
Right. And we've discussed it.
In the whole United States.
In the whole United States and in Columbia County as well. So my whole point is where did we go from February the 4th, where everybody was all favorable before the sheriff called and chewed everybody out, called everybody telephone, ranting and raving because it was told that I was going to have a resolution presented. Everybody got called except for Commissioner Williams. He was all wee-weed up about it. And now all of a sudden, we act like we want to drop the ball and not do the right thing for the citizens of this town. What would hurt? I just want to know what is sinful and what would it hurt to do a resolution, whether the sheriff agree with it or not. At least that you all would be a man and take a stand and say, hey, look, we talked about this. We semi-agreed with it. Let's hear from the sheriff. Let's make the recommendation and let the sheriff at the end of the day say he don't want it.
Okay, Mr. Moore, you need to wrap it up. So, I've been give you plenty of time. Anybody have a comment, Mr. Warren, a question? Thank you. Thanks, Fester. Russ Adler.
Russ Adler, District 1, North Lake City. Mr. Williams, my commissioner, thank you for your service. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your service. Members of the commission, thank you for your service. I'm here for a different reason tonight, but seeing the comments in the debate, I wanted to just offer a little bit of insight into this. If I may ask the deputy, is that a body cam you're wearing? Does the orange light signify that it's on? Okay. Overwhelming majority of officers wear body cameras. That's considered evidence. Probably 99% of the general population have these magical items that record video and sound. If I were to support a citizens advisory board, which I'm not saying I wouldn't, I would want to know, does it require funding? Is there going to be criteria of the members of the board and what that criteria would be? Is there going to be a requirement that the members of that board go through like an abbreviated police academy maybe? All this costs time and money. This is the first I've heard of it. I think I might have read of it on an agenda before. And I appreciate your activism, Mr. Warren. And I don't know what's under your hat, but I think maybe we might resemble each other a little. See, I think we resemble each other. So I'm scared of dogs too. I don't want to get bit. But anyway, so I teach a concealed weapon class monthly. I'm not here for this reason. I'm going to talk later, but really quickly, I just want to do some numbers. I'm going to take my magical device out here because my math is horrible. At any given time in the United States of America, there are 800,000 to 1 million sworn officers like him and like those folks up there, armed sworn officers. They have the power of arrest. They interact with the public daily. So I want to, and if I'm wrong, Sheriff, please correct me later on when you speak, because I think you're going to speak, right, sir? Okay, so may I continue? just for a moment. Okay.
I've been giving everybody leeway. You go ahead.
800,000. Let's say 80 law enforcement officers. I'm going to do, I'm doing I told you I was bad at math real quick. 80 officers in the country. So we've seen some sensational, horrific accidents, whether or not incidents that law enforcement officers have been involved in that have caused the death and dismemberment, and bad things happen to innocent citizens, some not so innocent. So let's say 80 officers did a bad thing. Not 1, not 2, not 8, not 10. 80 officers did a bad thing. And let's go on the low end of how many sworn officers are on duty at the time. 800,000. That's 3 zeros. 3 zeros before the 1. Before the 1. So tenths, hundredths, thousands, 100,000ths of 1% of all law enforcement officers in the country did something bad. 100,000ths of 1% did something bad. That's if 80 officers did something bad on duty that day at any given time. So before the board adopts a resolution, I would ask that you do some significant research, nationwide research. Include those numbers with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Lipker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to do this. I'm more concerned about the attorney's contract. But after hearing the conversation and the numbers, I don't care about the numbers. I know cops, as you all know, I'm not from here, although I am here, and I'm reminded of that generally weekly. There was a time in New York City when you could take a person that lived in Harlem and drive across the 3rd Avenue Bridge, beat him up, put him back in the car, take him back across the bridge, and say, I don't want to see you in my sector. Obviously, the person that got beat up did not look like me. There was a time you could take somebody and handcuff them, and this is why I'm here talking now, and handcuff their hands behind their back and pushing them down a flight of stairs. And nobody would bat an eye. Just an unfortunate incident. New York City, they have a civilian complaint review board. Other communities have it. I don't see anybody asking for that. I can't complain about the way the sheriff does his job, and I've told him and I've told people that would listen. When you go to sleep at night, you're not really worried about crime going on in the street. But now I'm starting to get worried, because now we have some person come up here and they have freedom of speech and say, well, it's one number out of X amount of cops. Doesn't make any difference how many it's out of. It's only if it happens to you or somebody in your family or somebody that you love. When somebody takes your daughter and drags them into the woods, like happened years ago in Fort White, it didn't make a difference how many cops in America did that. It made a difference that was that girl in this county. So nobody's asking to hang the sheriff out to dry. I don't know what he's considering. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. I'm hoping that he's open-minded. All people are asking for is an advisory board. Doesn't make a difference. They don't need to go to the police academy to do that. Some people have if you just bear with me for 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Life's experience that's different than at least 4 of you commissioners up there. I guarantee you that your life's experience is not that of Commissioner Williams. I've seen it here looking at him on a date every 2 weeks since 2006 or 7. So I would ask that you consider this with an open mind. I hope the sheriff considers this with an open mind. It's not about numbers. It's just about review. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the comment cards I have on this subject. Sheriff, at this time, would you like to address the comments that were made? And the reason I done it so the sheriff could address each and every one of y'all that way. It was my mistake at the beginning.
Commissioner, citizens, I do have a few comments that I would like to make. And Citizen Review Board. I'm all about transparency with our sheriff's office. I'm all about having the trust and the respect of our community. It's paramount in our profession. But one of the things that does kind of bother me is whenever you take a solution and you go looking for a problem to try to work your solution. What I mean by that, when we start looking at a national narrative that we're trying to plug in, one brushstroke covers all. And I've said this, and I've talked to a lot of civic clubs. I've talked around to a lot of different groups within our community. Overall, we are fortunate here in Columbia County. We're fortunate for our community that we have. And if you'll notice on some of the narrative that's being put out there, where does the majority of those incidents take place? In your larger metropolitan areas where that I feel like they have lost their community policing. And when you start hearing about all this, we need a program or we need this. Well, I think you've already lost it at that point as far as your community policing. Community policing is having the deputies go out and interact with the citizens. But since all this started up, I've been accused of being a narcissist. I've been accused of being a predator. I've been accused of being arrogant. And yet these are the people that say they want to come and work with me to try to help us make the sheriff's office better. Kind of makes you think twice about that. What are the true intentions of it? Now, if you'll look at what was proposed in that resolution, that was Fort Myers, and that is under a charter for the city of Fort Myers. And I believe the gentleman, Mr. Adler, spoke about what type of a format would that be. You're talking about appointing people to these to a board that has oversight. When this first came down through this narrative, and we talk about chokeholds and all these other things that were in there, defunding the police, Mr. Johnson, you hit on that about you're not for defunding the police. Thank you. I'm not either. But that on itself, everybody goes, wow, nobody's going to do that. How are we going to defund the police? How are you going to do that? Well, there's ways around it. And whenever you talked about qualified immunity, a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's something that law enforcement can hide behind. Not necessarily. I didn't make any comments or speak while you folks were speaking. I was being very respectful.
Will you talk to us instead of
Okay.
them?
Look here. If you can't sit in the audience and keep your mouth shut while somebody's speaking, you will be removed.
I was respectful to everyone here, and I'm
I'm
going to be
just saying,
respectful to
I'm not
everyone
putting
here.
up with it.
Because
I have not, I won't.
This is a very important issue. I am not above having an advisory group. In the past, when we've had significant incidents that have taken place where the minority community was upset with things, I have people I've reached out to. I have them come out to the office. I showed them our videos. This was before we had body cams. There was a push on about body cams. I've spoken to the majority of people in this room about body cams. Up front, I was not for them. And I appreciate you giving me a little bit of liberty here. But there's things that we do, and we go in people's houses. We go behind what I call the closed doors in people's lives. And y'all talk about transparency, being transparent. Well, there's certain times in our profession when we're having to deal with people and situations that I don't think necessarily need to be public. Most of you folks in here are married. There's been a time or two whenever you and your spouse have gotten into it. Just suppose that you get into it. You got Nosy Nancy that lives next door, calls us. We walk in with our body cameras. It's just a verbal argument, but it sounded pretty rough. Maybe there was a few explicit words. Maybe you weren't dressed up to go out to dinner, not looking your best. That camera's recording everything, and we're in your house.
I know, Sheriff, you need to be talking to us. We the one got to make the decision, not them.
Okay. I believe most of y'all have heard this. But when that deputy gets in there and is able to use some discretion and maybe get those people apart, and there's not an arrest affected, we dealt with that situation. We got them apart. They went on. The next day, the neighbor decides that they'd like to see what happened over there. So they call out there, public record. I want a copy of the report, and I'd like a copy of that video. Once they look at the video and they see what's going on, they think, oh my gosh, maybe we need to get them some help. I'll send this to the pastor. Maybe I'll put it on Facebook. That was my concern about the body cams. Now, since we've got them though, I will tell you right now, it's helped us a lot because we have had some accusations made where the cameras came in and proved it different. But what I want to caution you about, whenever we start talking about having boards, there's a process that needs to occur. When something happens, it's emotional. We deal with it every day. When people are out there on the street, whenever you're going to affect arrest or you're in a traumatic situation, people's emotions are very high. And the man was right. That there is going on while we're out there. The deputies are worried about their safety. They're worried about the public safety. And it's emotional sometimes. It ain't pretty. But what winds up happening is the whole process that they went through doesn't get out there. They get the 10 to 15 second snippet of what they want to be shown. And then that's whenever the emotion kicks up within the community. And there has to be a time where you are able to have a calming moment, and it's not just in an hour or two. Sometimes it takes you a couple of days to pull all the interviews together. And also when we show up, we don't have people that are willing to talk to us because of a cultural barrier. Sometimes it takes us 2 or 3 days to get some folks to give us a backdoor call, as we call it, to say you might want to go talk to so-and-so. I will tell you, the format that is presented to you, I would ask you not to approve or not to embrace that. I do, when we have situations, call on some folks within the community to come out. I have an open door policy. Anyone that wants to come out and see me can come out and see me. Mr. Lord, do you have my phone number? Have you called me about this? Okay. So my thing is that I've been around and talked to a lot of the folks in the community, a lot of the people in the community, and I've not heard an outcry to have a citizen advisory board. The ones that I have called around and asked about, if they will come out and review tapes with me. I've asked for people's input. And yes, I did have a conversation with Mr. Warren up at Richardson. I didn't realize that we were about to get into a physical altercation, though. I missed that part. But I tried to explain to him the process. And let me throw a few things out here for you so you understand something. As far as being held accountable, we spent almost $600,000. I came to you guys about if y'all remember way back when, Ron, you were here, about the car cameras. When we initially got the car cameras for traffic stops, so that way we would be transparent. Then we went to the body cameras. We spent the money on that. We've implemented those. We have those out there. It is for review. We have our agency accredited. There is a accreditation process that is very intense, and it is about accountability and tracking all of our records and what we do. Internal investigations. Our policies, they are very adequate and they are legally in place. There is a precedent already that exists for handling our internal investigations that forbid or preclude releasing any of that information because of what I said earlier about the emotion. we have to take the emotion out and you deal with the facts. You go and you get your interviews. You come to a process. And if somebody's wrong, there's a standard and a statute that deals with that, with the disciplinary action that takes place with that. It's not about getting your pound of flesh and you get it right now, because these are very complicated situations or very intense. And we try to take that out. If we have a lethal use of force, we call in an additional or an outside agency, FDLE, to do our investigations. Nobody has any access to that until the investigation is done. It's done by a third party. There are some agencies that do their own investigations. I would never do that here. Now, we're going to have a right seat ride, because when that takes place, I still open up an internal investigation, but that thing is told by statute until they finish theirs, and then we adopt their case, and that's what we use for following our discipline process. If I do not follow appropriate disciplinary process, notice what I said, I'm not the final authority. I will administer discipline, but it goes to the Florida Criminal Justice Training and Standard Commission, and they review that case. If I do not have substantial discipline administered to that employee up to termination, they can put additional sanctions on that employee up to suspending their certificate, revoking it, or suspending it. And if they suspend it, basically they're telling me you should have fired them. And I don't have any choice, and I'm going to fire them. So there is another process outside of the agency to review this. Once all of these things are done, every bit of this is public record. Anytime anyone has given me a public records request, I've honored that. I'm bound by it. The citizens on this review board would not be able to review an internal affair until it's done. Citizens don't necessarily always have the legal expertise necessary, to oversee some of these things. And there would be training involved with it. If y'all looked at that model from Fort Myers, it's pretty intensive. We would have to provide them some law enforcement training. Cases, again, are reviewed by the CJSTC. Independent legal counsel would have to be there to kind of advise them as well. Florida Statute Chapter 119 already provides for some of the most transparent public record laws concerning private citizens and governing services. And there's some things that are exempt that, if it's there, I can't give that out. That's by law. But anything else is fair gratis. I give it to them. Now, when we hear about all these civilian boards, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, there's only 144 civilian oversight boards operating in the entire country. There's only 11 agencies that use them in Florida. And there's only one sheriff's office that has it, which is Orange County. One. Now, I don't know that you really have to have a review board other than having a group to come together. And then I'll be honest with you, because of past practices with some sheriffs appointing a citizen board, they get accused of that group is the one that's telling the sheriff what to do. It'd be like y'all having a citizen review board that y'all could meet with, and then whenever y'all get up here and vote, it'd be like what you get accused of. You had your mind made up before you got up here. And so I'm telling you, I get elected just like you do. I'm constitutional. You guys are elected by the people of your district. Would you want to have a board over you, an advisory board, and according to that model that he's given, would have oversight on policies, on what y'all do, to direct you as far as some of your operations? No. That's what y'all elected me for, and whoever sits in this chair. And I'm open to people coming to my office. I deal with people on a daily basis, dealing with their family issues, dealing with a lot of things. And when he talked about the mental health issue, just so you know, we're already doing 40 hours of CIT, critical intervention training for mental health. We've already done that training with all of our deputies, and it's a continuous education thing dealing with mental health. Mental health is another whole issue out there, but there's so many things. It's so multifaceted, and I'm a little taken back. I don't understand if a group of people got together and came to me and said, Sheriff, we'd like to review some records. Would you make time to do that? I wouldn't have a bit of problem with that at all. But what I don't want to have is a group of people who are out on a witch hunt that want to show up and be agitators and not facilitators to having a better law enforcement in our community. I've been out and about in this community. I, at this time, don't see the need to have a formal citizen advisory board of what has been proposed to you. And I would ask that you not support that resolution. And even though it's not binding, I would ask that you still not support that. I will continue to call citizens together. If a group got together and wanted to come see me and we could form something, I'd be good with that. However, we need to make sure we represent the diversity of our community in that board or that group as well. And I know that we have different areas in the county, and some are unique, have their uniqueness to the others, and we try to regulate that on how we police in those different areas. But I'd love to have more interaction, and one of the things on our strategic plan is having a citizens academy for the sheriff's office. It's one of the things that we're going to be working towards within the next couple of years. And I think that may help too, to educate some of the folks that are out there. Any questions?
I have one, Sheriff. And this specifically, any such cab should be advisory to the sheriff. The B, have you got one of these? Have you got one of these?
Mm-hmm.
On B, it says review unsworn citizen complaints not currently investigated by the sheriff's office, which is just like a complaint. I'm assuming. I'm trying to read it. I'm not a lawyer. So. And then it says review unsworn citizen complaint, and then review closed investigations conducted thereof in the following instances: use of deadly force, alleged use of excessive force, any instance where police action results in death. Is that saying that this board would be allowed to go into a closed investigation, or is that a closed investigation?
Once it's closed, once an investigation is closed.
So once it's closed and done,
closed out, it's done, and they could go in there and
I thought it
review
meant closed
questions.
investigation.
But
That's my fault.
But it's my understanding, anybody can request that information.
That's correct. They can do that now.
Once it's closed, right?
I'm sorry, I messed up. I thought it meant a closed and like an investigation that was still ongoing.
I will leave y'all with this. The number of terminations and folks that have resigned while under investigation during my administration has been 17 Caucasian, 1 African-American, for a total of 18 folks that have left the agency. They were either terminated or resigned. And there's some controversy about allowing somebody to resign, but I think most of you guys can understand whenever you allow them to resign, they still held accountable, but it ends all the litigation and the expense of litigation, but they're still held accountable. The use of lethal force since 1985. When I say lethal force, this would mean that they have been death or severe bodily harm has been, well, when I say this would be death, black males would be 0, white males would be 9, and for a total of 9. Now, during my tenure, the task force, we've had 3 significant uses of lethal force. We did have to take the life of a Hispanic male. Our task force, the guy fired upon the task force. And then we've had 2 that actually one shot at a deputy. The guy was shot but was not killed. He was a Caucasian. And then we had one that tried to run over a deputy, and he was shot but not shot at but not killed. So arrest, this is just a little something for you. Yet arrest by year, in 2018, we had 2,135. 2019, 2,013 arrests. In 2020, we were down because, and I think a lot of that was with COVID, but we only had 1,594 and a total of 5,742 people. Our K-9 apprehensions, black males, 16 from 2018 to present, 6. White males was 10 for a total of 16. So those are some of our stats. And, you know, I'm working on getting a lot more things put together to where that we can put these out on our website. I mean, and if somebody requests our stats, I'll be glad to provide them to them. But the thing is you've got to be able to have dialogue and not talk at somebody, but talk with them and come up with a solution. So I do agree on the mental health with Mr. Johnson, who spoke. We got to do a lot more with that. And Mr. Williams, I applaud you for saying we definitely need more with Meridian and the ride-alongs that they do with that counselor. Whenever we have a Baker Act potential, where we call them out, has been very successful. We've been doing that for the last 2 years. They're just so limited on their staffing to be able to provide it. So the other thing too is trying to get the information out, and I call it kind of the street committee. There's things that get dumped out there which really causes a lot of emotion, and it's not necessarily always factual. And so I get bound by legal requirements of not being able to discuss cases, especially whenever I have litigation going on. And of course, with some of the things that were brought up here, there is some litigation going on at this time, so I'm not at liberty to speak about those. And I don't necessarily like to speak about a case in public unless it's, it's people's lives we're dealing with. And I'm not here to try to attack anybody. We all got to try to get along and make our county better and so forth. I'll answer any more questions.
Board, anybody got any questions?
I'm good.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, at this time, any comments by the commissioners?
I've got some, but
Oh,
The sheriff addressed me on several occasions, and I need to respond to a few things that he said directly to me. Don't mind?
okay, I'll give you that latitude.
And me as well, Sheriff. I mean, me as well, Sheriff.
I don't know, probably about 10 years ago, the sheriff, in fact, convened a community board to come out to review a complaint that was made against his agency. And after looking at it, I guess there probably was about 15, maybe, of us out there. The sheriff was right in that particular instance, in the way they handled the situation. But that was 10 years ago, and there has been multiple complaints with the sheriff's office in which a review board, advisory board, community input board, you can call it whatever that you want to call it, but that is absolutely necessary. And the sheriff himself, if you would listen very carefully, say, I can see some value in that. And so I don't know if a resolution for a community review board, as you might have before you, is something that is required or necessary. But without a doubt, there is a necessary means of addressing when there is a major dispute between what the sheriff investigation has brought about and what the community is saying in exactly what happened. That needs to be done. And so I think the sheriff is for transparency, but there has to be another element to it. And so if I were sitting in your seat, I certainly would propose a resolution that we do have community input in complaints that are made by the citizenry. I don't think there's a culture difference between different groups. I think there's a trust issue between groups. And I think an advisory or input board, listen, I'm an objective person. As the sheriff said, I didn't call him. I didn't call Sylvester Warren either. And so you need people, I'm not bragging about myself, who can see both sides of the issue and look at it and be objective and honest about what you're saying. And so I just think that we ought to put that in place in this community, because if we can look at this country and see that kind of thing is absolutely necessary. Because we need to trust our police officer. We need to trust our sheriff department. I wouldn't be hesitate to tell the sheriff something that I saw that was illegal. I think most people wouldn't hesitate to do that. But when you start to ignoring what was an error by an officer without somebody reviewing it and say, Sheriff, I think there needs some discipline here in regards to what was revealed. I mean, it's only fair that we would do that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Just a few corrections for the sheriff. First of all, commissioners, that information did not come from Fort Myers, so I don't know where the sheriff getting his information from, but you can also talk to county attorney. I can swear to you it didn't come from Fort Myers. That's not where I got the information from. So I don't know where he get his information from. That's one. Number two, I heard Rocky say that you can do a public records request. Yeah, there's public records request you can do, but if you don't have an organized board to review that has some teeth in it that says, hey guys, remember what happened to Terry Glenn? He got punched back in March, and it was August until we found out about it. And then a lot of pressure got put on the sheriff, and he finally decided to force the guy to resign, and didn't want to take away his certification. And now he's willing to go to a certification hearing. That was pressure. That was because people in the community was pressuring him to do the right thing, be it social media and other things. Why do we have to pressure the sheriff to do the right thing? If we had a citizen review board, that board could work with the sheriff. And he didn't even propose anything. He just said, hey, I don't like that. I don't want y'all to do it. Vote it down. He didn't even sit up here and say, hey, I don't like that version. How about this version? How about I'm the sheriff, I'm willing to work with my community. Hey guys, let's sit down. Let's craft out a citizen review board that works for me and work for you. Why he didn't say that? If I was sheriff, any reasonable sheriff would say, hey, look, I understand that this community has concerns. I'm concerned about all of the community. You guys want to do something like this? Let's sit down. Let's craft out something. But for him to definitively say that he's not down for it, and I get some chosen people that can call me on my telephone and I meet them, he's willing to have an unorganized board of people come to his office. Why he's not willing to have an organized board of people come to his office? He just said, I'm willing to have an unorganized board of people meet me in my office and look at stuff. Why he's not willing to have an organized board to come into his office and meet about things? And these are the things that we have to listen to. These are the things we have to pay attention to. And these are the things that we have to get down to the bottom of. We need a citizen review board. And just to clear everybody's mind up, Sylvester Warren have over 500 employees. I run about 8 different companies. I don't want to sit on a citizen review board. I just think that the citizens need one because of the complaints that I get and other people get. Don't care. Don't ever want to sit on one. Told the chief of police, don't want to sit on hers. Don't want to sit on Mark Hunter's own. But the citizens need one.
Thank you.
My name is Mitchell.
I respect you a lot. Seriously.
Mr. Adler, you need to-
Okay, from what he said, I think he didn't hear what the sheriff said because there's a lot of yapping going on. So your directive is not being followed and I'm being distracted, but I was focused on what was being said. There are statutes in place that he mentioned that cover this. I've been a witness in a grand jury. So a lot of people don't realize what happens behind the scenes in an investigation. Body camera footage is taken into account as evidence. Cell phone footage taken account into evidence. I don't want to sit on an advisory board, but I would if I felt that passionately about it and didn't know how the system worked from on an intimate level. I would absolutely want to sit on a board, but it would be a volunteer board. I'd put my money where my mouth is. I don't like some of the language I've heard. I haven't read it, but just a few of the footnotes, bullet points that you mentioned, Robbie, and that the sheriff mentioned, the format, I don't like it. I'm a citizen. I think there needs to be accountability by law enforcement. I used to be a law enforcement officer. There are accountability measures in place. Contrary to what the public thinks, we police our own, and we do a pretty good job of it. Unfortunately, there's some sensationalism, and the sheriff touched on it, emotion about this. Okay, now I didn't work under Sheriff Hunter's regime. That's probably a bad word to say. I didn't work for Sheriff Hunter. I worked for a previous sheriff. Okay, so I don't know how he manages or leads the agency, but there are measures in place. There are statutes in place that govern this. If people want a review board, he's offered to come in. He asked the question, have you called me? The answer was no. Okay, go on it, see, and they're still yapping. I can't even focus on my thoughts because I'm hearing talking in the background. No respect whatsoever. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna wrap that in the public comment. Sylvester, that's enough.
No, we're not
We
doing
can hear
this.
you up here, and we shouldn't be hearing you. If y'all need to go outside, if y'all want to talk. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to leave? Deputy, would you please restore order? I'm not going to, I've been patient, I've been courteous, but I'm not going to put up with it now. Look here, Vanessa, please. I need you to remove them if they continue talking. Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Pleasure of the board.
Okay, we've heard public comment.
I got a comment.
Go ahead.
I just want to touch on how we got here. February 4th, we had a meeting. Mr. Warren brought forth a resolution, or brought forth an agenda item about a citizens review board. There wasn't a lot of information about what he exactly was talking about, what he wanted. It was kind of, commissioners, you support this in theory, right? And yeah, I guess we did kind of say, yeah, I support the concept. And he wants to know what changed. Well, I'll tell you what changed. And it's got nothing to do with Sheriff Hunter giving me a call or giving anybody else a call. Did research. Not only did I research, I participated in the cities when they did their workshop. And I heard from the police chief. And I got educated on it. And that's why my opinion of it changed, because when the process is laid out of the internal affairs, the investigations that occur when these things go on, and the access to public records, you can do it. If you want a citizen review board on any issue that happens, you can do it. You can put it together and go to his office and get the records and discuss it with him. You have the same power as any board we might put forth or he might put forth. But this is the narrative we hear. And this is where Facebook sometimes is unfortunate, because the narrative we hear is the police go out there, the sheriff's office, they have to use force. And the next day it's all over Facebook and you get one side of the story. Well, let me tell you the narrative we don't hear. There are police that get ambushed on traffic stops and don't come home. There's 2 police sitting in a diner eating and get ambushed. So their awareness is heightened. Their fear is heightened, not because of what's going on to them. They're getting attacked. So they when they pull somebody over, they never know, is it going to be a clean traffic stop, or is this guy going to pull out a gun and shoot me? All they want to do is go home. That's a narrative you don't hear. But when these things happen, you hear one side of the narrative. It takes months later or even a year later for that investigation to come out. And when they're proven right, do you ever hear them go back and say, oh no, for a year we've been bashing the police and we were wrong? You don't hear that. Now, I just have a problem with taking a group of citizens who have no background in police investigations and in law enforcement and giving them oversight over decisions the sheriff makes. And I have a problem with the whole jurisdiction issue. We don't form a board to tell the tax collector what to do or to tell the judge what to do or any other elected official. We don't have a board telling us what to do. To me, if you want to address issues with the sheriff, you need to go straight to the sheriff. He's told you he's willing. He's willing. And I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that.
Deputy,
No.
Deputy, would you?
No.
I want to look here. I'm not putting up with it. I'm not putting up with it. You've had your chance to talk, sir. You need to be quiet. Now, remove him.
He's an elected official by the voters of Columbia County. In my opinion, he's got a citizen review board of 30,000 voters every 4 years. So I'm tired of spending time on this. I don't want to spend any more time on it. I want to get back to doing what this commission is tasked to do. And I'm in no way in support of this resolution.
Is that a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
there is a misconception of what I see in a advisory board, whether it's for the sheriff's department, police department, or recreation department, or whatever. This resolution right here, I could tear it up. I don't agree with the wording on it and the way it's worded. But what I do believe that there is a simple way to create a board, a citizens board, that does not have the authority to tell the sheriff how to run his department. I do believe there is an avenue to have a board, just like he calls selected members out of the community when there is a problem. A board is picked by the sheriff department to sit on a adjustment board or advisory board. You got to be black to understand this. If you ain't black, you don't understand it. It's about understanding. It's about trust. We have been fed a crock of bull all our lives. And when it comes down to understanding and trust, this is where it's at. You learn to trust. I don't support of telling Sheriff Hunter how to run his department. I don't think that I want to tell Sheriff Hunter how to spend his budget. I don't believe in telling the sheriff who to hire, but I do believe that it helps us as a whole if there is a selected group that don't have any other power than to sit down and listen to the sheriff. The community say this happened, the sheriff say this happened, he brings them in and say, here it is right here. Although, I heard you say you can go get a tape, or you can look at this, and the sheriff is right. When he and I talked about the body cameras, he was against it. And I was for it. And he and I had this dialogue, and then over the period of time, I saw it as a way to benefit the church department. He's right. He told me exactly what he said there. Well, there is a other side of this that you might not think of when I go into a house and there's some involvement, then that privacy is no longer there because of his public record. I agree wholeheartedly. But in the long run, it's better off when there is a dispute. The whole idea about this whole deal is trust. Not trying to tell the church what to do, how to do it, when to do it. It's just like being able to take a allegation and the community all blowed out, and you got this group of people made up of all sections of Columbia County, and you present this evidence to him at the proper time. Sheriff said that there's sometimes I can't present this to you in this case in this point of an investigation. But once our investigation is over with, you lay the cards on the table, And 90% of the time, the advisory committee, or ever what you want to call it, gonna support what was done. I don't see a problem with that. I don't. But I see a problem with a group telling the sheriff what to do, when to do, and how to do it. But just to listen to the facts and have a dialogue, that means a lot. That means a lot in a community that the trust isn't there because of past incidents that has happened throughout the generation that we have been here. The trust isn't there. I just see it as a avenue to build a bridge between the sheriff department and the community. Only for information that is disputed from rumors or innuendos, and lay the cards on the table and go from there. You know, it's hard it's hard to change things. This is the way I've always done it, and I don't want to change from doing it this way. It's very important that we as a community go through this changing time with the hatred and the bitterness and all that's going on now, to come together and work together, to understand everybody's feelings, to understand everybody's thoughts, to work together to make Columbia County a better place. I don't care what's going on per se over in Baker County. I just don't care what's going on in Suwannee County, Hamilton County, Lafayette County. I want us to be able to respect one another, to be able to man up when something ain't right and speak up for it. And once we do that, we grow as a county, we grow as a community. So that's why I see an advisory board, if you want to call it an advisory board, and that might be the wrong name for it, as a plus and not a way to tie the sheriff's hands. The sheriff is the sheriff. He's elected by the people of Columbia County. But to me, that board is an ace in the hole. You know, I got not this selected group I call out to my sheriff department, and I go over the incident, but here's a group that I work together with the community and appointed a board, if you want to call it a board, a group of concerned citizens to help me make sure that what happened is transparent and innuendos and all is not taking place. To me, I see it as a win situation, but I don't see it as this right here. I see it as a simple board that is appointed or by the elected official. That's his department. He should assemble that group of people together and be able to sit down and talk to them about any situation that's happening in the community. He is the high sheriff of this county. And it's his responsibility to protect this county, and it's his responsibility to be transparent in this county. I'm gonna tell you all a little story. I was 20 years old. I saw law enforcement shoot a man with his hands up in the air. When I tried to get a petition about that, I was told I wouldn't live to be 21. True story. I think about it all the time. A man gets shot in the chest by law enforcement with his hands up in the air like this. I wasn't supposed to be on Railroad Street, and I didn't go back on Railroad Street. Nothing was done about it. It was said that the man reached for a gun. How can you reach for a gun when your hands up in the air like this? So, Sheriff, what I'm saying to you, I'm not for this, but I am for you working with this community to assemble a group of people, or what you want to call that board, and say, hey guys, I got this problem right here. Let's look at what I can show you now, and you go back in your community and say what you hearing ain't true. You got people you can trust in this community to do that. And that's when it all boils down and you shuck it down to the carb, you got something that you can hang your hat on and help you, not advising you, but to help you lay the cards on the table, and an ace will be an ace, and a spade will be a spade. So I wish you would think about that, and ever how you want to wind up doing it, I think it'll be a plus for you and a plus for this community.
I agree with Ron. The thing is, when this came up about the resolution, any resolution, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, as a politician myself, constitutional officers aren't guided by us, and they're not told what to do by us. And to tell a constitutional officer, and I'm not against, I have no problem with something what we're talking about. You know, I believe probably the sheriff doesn't, because all this misinformation gets out before anybody knows what happened. It's happened in the last 3 or 4 years, many, many times. This, and all this misinformation comes out, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't like it said it was. And that's not good for the sheriff, and that's not good for the people, because it incites people that get mad. And I would get mad if I heard a lie or something that wasn't quite like it was. You know, there's times that I get angry about stuff like that until I research it and go, it wasn't quite like it was. But I'm not the sheriff. And as a county commissioner, I'm not going to micromanage any constitutional officer, public defender, property appraiser, any of them. They are elected by the people, and the people will micromanage them. They're the ones that decide whether they stay in office or whether they don't. And I heard the sheriff right here say that he had picked people before, and I know Leonard had been to one. So he's done it before, and I just don't believe he's as closed-minded to doing it. It doesn't sound like to me, especially with Ron talking. I'm all for Ron's talking about. But I'm not going to tell the sheriff to do that. I can't, because I'm not going to tell another politician what to do, because I didn't vote him in. He has his constituents that voted him in, and they are the ones that decide. But it sounds like to me that we're getting close to getting something done. But I won't do a resolution to it, because I wouldn't want a resolution done to me that says, well, y'all should raise taxes, or y'all should do something, y'all should not build a jail, I just don't believe in a resolution to another politician, because that puts him under pressure, and we don't know what the sheriff's job's like. I've never done the sheriff's job. I don't know I can't manage him that way. He has his own people, and he knows sheriffing, obviously. So I'm like Ron, I hope this has worked out. I don't think, like I said in the first, I quoted it, I don't think it's a bad thing if it's done correctly, and it's done in a manner with cool-headed people that can talk and not get upset and mad at each other, and can give their opinion and give their input.
It would be, and Sheriff, I hope you would. There are some things in this that I didn't agree with, but I think that you could sit down and work up a wording that would be acceptable to both parties. When I say both parties, that means the church department and my black community. And church, I guess I might be wrong by saying black community. I should say Columbia County citizens. So it goes deeper than just the core black in the community. It goes toward the community as a whole that would be acceptable to Columbia County and Columbia County citizens. Something that binds you, but something don't dictate to you what you got to do and how you got to do it.
And I will say this, let me say one more thing.
Okay.
Since I've been a commissioner, I've had about 7 complaints, and they've all been not about the sheriff's deputies, but other things. And 3 of them were, I think, one Hispanic guy and a couple black guys and a couple white guys. I can't remember exactly, but I forwarded those to the sheriff's department, and they all called me back and said he took care of it. So I know that the sheriff's open to helping everybody. I know he has for me. So I don't think anybody needs to be demonized, either side. We just got to get along and try to do it and get something good for the people. And let's stop this fight.
Mr. Murphy.
The point's simple. I think the sheriff, I know the sheriff plainly come up here and said that he'll recognize and entertain anybody. I've never known the Sheriff Mark Hunter ever to reject any meeting, any sit down with a one-on-one situation. I think his diligence to the community is set forth. I think he's the longest sitting sheriff in Columbia County's history. Second, I'll vote for him again. You know, I think I know he's for all the people. And when I say the people, I'm talking about the citizens of Columbia County. Having law enforcement in my family currently, before, I get it, I understand it, and exactly what Mr. Williams said down there. I'd be sitting here lying, and if I didn't see some actions of that in my lifetime, sure we have. And but we're fortunate here in Columbia County to be able to pick up the phone. I think I got about 3 numbers of Mark Hunter. And just for the record, Mark Hunter didn't call me after that particular meeting. But he's about the most accessible person that I know. He's sitting here as an elected sheriff that I've never personally known of him to ignore the outreach from the community. And I think the sheriff plainly stated it, that his door is wide open. And if he sees the need for this, I support him 100%. If he wants to put this community, a program like this together on his guidelines, he being the sworn in constitutional officer, sheriff of Columbia County, I support him 100%. But every commissioner here that spoke so far, you can't open this can of worms, because there will be governing throughout your community that we were voted to be entrusted. When we fall, when we fail, when we don't do what we said we would do, it's the community's opportunity to put us down, send us back home, or do whatever. The sheriff, every constitutional officer in the state of Florida and in this country sits in the same position. I commend Mr. Warren's passion for this, and he's right. He's got some valid complaints, and but the good Lord made each and every one of us. We've all made mistakes. I've made a bunch of mistakes in my lifetime. I wish I could go back and eat and spit out the other side of my mouth, but I can't. You know, so and thank the Lord. If I was judged for my actions as a young man up until this point, and that sheriff right back there can testify to a lot of them, I surely wouldn't be sitting here. So I can't support a resolution going forward. But if the sheriff comes up with a plan, I'll be right there to support him. However he and his law enforcement team decides what road they want to go down.
Well, all the commissioners spoke, and, you know, I've said before, I don't have a problem with this. I really don't. But I think you brought it to the Board of County Commissioners. You should have brought it to the sheriff's office. we don't have jurisdiction to do anything, make the sheriff do anything. And we certainly don't understand sheriffing. Never been in law enforcement in my life. I have to trust what sheriff, what he says and what his decisions are. And if y'all want to work something out with the sheriff as far as some kind of board, I'll try to help any way I can. But like I say, y'all brought it to the wrong board as far as I'm concerned. We don't have jurisdiction, and I'm not the rest of the, I'm not going to tell any of our elected officials how to run their job, and I'm not going to say that we need to elect a board to tell them how to run their job. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we deny this resolution.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Basically, I do believe that we can rework a resolution that'll be acceptable with the sheriff, with his input, to bring back to this board. So I still believe in the concept. I do not think that I'll be doing the citizens that I represent justice by supporting this information. And for those that look at me because I'm black, my district is 45% white. So I'm thinking of all the citizens of Columbia County in my district.
Okay, let's move on. We can take 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
5 minutes.
I love you.
Then we go straight up, put it out there.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna re-adjourn. I mean, reconvene, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. Okay, Mr. Foreman, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on the agenda is my request for a contract adjustment. Just pointing out the elephant in the room. Nobody likes talking about their contract. Nobody likes talking about money or raises, particularly these days. But the fact is, I haven't had an adjustment in 6 years. I was going to do this last year, but obviously with what we were dealing with this time last year, that wasn't going to happen. I gave you guys a fairly detailed memo. Also gave you a copy of my proposed restated and amended employment agreement, as well as the existing one from 2014. Importantly, I gave you a study that reflects the percentage increase of all elected officials in Columbia County since 2014-15. And if you bring those numbers forward, the commissioners have received an 11.84% increase in salary. The constitutional officers have received a 10.69% increase in salary. For whatever reason, the sheriff only got 10.63. So he's on the low end. State officers have gotten a 13.3% increase since 2014-15. What I've proposed is to round down to an even 10% to make that adjustment this year. And then any adjustments going forward will be indexed to whatever the county commissioners receive. Now, the other part of this that I think is actually critical, and I hear it a lot, and I know a lot of times it's said tongue in cheek, but I know some of the times it's said seriously. There's concern that somehow I'm running these massive overages and y'all are paying me way above the 880 hours that's called for in the contract. That's not the case. But what I would like to do is eliminate the possibility of overages by taking that portion out of the contract and just, I'm working for what I'm working for as much as y'all need. I think what that'll do is remove the specter or the threat that somehow you're going to be the person who puts me over the overage limit for the year and somehow you're going to show up on a report that's costing the county extra money. I would like to just avoid that. I want to encourage people to talk to the county attorney. I want to encourage the commissioners to talk to the county attorney. And I talk to constituents from time to time, and I don't know that it's fair necessarily to reduce their meetings into a billing entry. That can be tracked the way it can be. So it doesn't encourage an elected official to have a good rapport with the people he's working for and the people he's representing if I'm keeping track of every minute of everything I do. So that's the compromise there is give me the 10% adjustment to bring me up to, fairly in line with every other elected official in the county. Going forward, we'll just do what the county commissioners do on the same schedule. So when y'all's goes up, mine goes up. We depoliticize the whole question, which as the study I provided you guys kind of outlines why the legislature sets salaries and why, like, for example, why you guys don't set the sheriff's salary. You can understand that being problematic. So that's in there. And I mean, I've done the very best I can to give you as much information as I can and be as reasonable as possible. I'm happy to entertain any questions. And I understand there's at least one public comment card, so I'll be prepared to respond to anything on that too.
So we're open up public comment this time? All right, Mr. Looker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not in favor of this change. As people remember many years ago, it was talk about having a red line. It had to be around 2007 or 8. Dale Williams was the county manager at the time. I can't remember the dude's name who was standing in the back of the room in that corner by that door, asking why there was no red line or black line or blue line. Whatever an attorney calls something and what they do in Tallahassee when they change a piece of legislation or a contract and they cross out the old stuff and put the new stuff with it. Yet Mr. Foreman didn't seem to have enough respect for this board or the public to do that. It's two separate contracts. So you got to look at one thing and then you look down and look at the other. Mr. Foreman was being square and above board. That would be there. Mr. Foreman just said he's not making overtime. He wants to stop the board from having to worry about that in the future. Yet in 2007, I believe, this board passed a charter amendment saying the backup material has to be provided with the information that's provided to the county commission. The foreman comes up here and says he hasn't been billing for overtime. I haven't gotten his bills lately. But I don't know why nobody knows here how much he's billed. I don't know. Do you know, Mr. Chairman? Probably not. It's not in the agenda packet. Nobody else sees it there. You can look. It's certainly not there. Clearly, that would have been Mr. Foreman's responsibility to provide that to the county commission and to the public. Did he do that? Absolutely not. Did he have the opportunity? Absolutely, he did. And I would remind this board that a few months ago at the Charter Review Commission, Mr. Foreman thought he should make as much as a judge. Charter Review Commission didn't think so, or you guys didn't think so, or somebody didn't think so. I know a lot of people didn't think so. Just give me a minute here. Everybody else got a minute. You're talking about a lot of money here, Mr. Chairman. So from 159 or 69 or 79,000, whatever a judge made, now he's lowered his sites. And how much will this cost the county? First of all, I've never seen an attorney that doesn't put his billing hours. If he wants a flat rate, that's fine. It still should be necessary for him to provide his billing hours. I've seen attorneys in states across the country. Obviously, I've never seen one in this county that didn't provide billing hours. The city attorney, Mr. Coblheim, provides billing hours. Marlon Fiegel provided billing hours. The attorneys that work for county commissions, I'm almost done. I got about 30
wrap it up,
seconds.
Steve. Okay.
Provide billing hours. But if you add the amount of hours that there's nothing backed up here with what he wants at 880 hours, it's going to cost over $200,000 a year for the residents of this county to bill what he was billing before. That's $227 an hour for the Columbia County attorney. And none of that is there either. So this board is derelict to even consider this tonight. And where the rest of the information is anybody's guess. But $227 an hour is a lot of money for the residents of this county to pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Joe, the guy we're talking about. Now, you're asking for $11,000, but you would still bill, right?
No, sir. So what we're talking about is, what we're talking about here, okay, so the way the contract's structured and the reason Marlon kept track of his time and the reason I've always kept track of my time is there's a 220 per hour per quarter amount of time that's covered by the base salary that's paid to the county attorney. Right. That was true with Marlon, true with me. So the only reason the attorney's keeping track of time is so he knows when he breaks 220 hours, you guys owe me more money.
Right.
That's it. That's why it's in the contract. In-house counsel for counties don't keep their time. There's no reason to. Now, there are legitimate reasons to keep time from time to time, like if it's a grant-funded project and you want to keep track of the time. Well, guess who else keeps track of their time on that? Our in-kind services and labor. So it's no different. But in terms of the day-to-day keeping time, you're paying me, you're having me keep track of that just so I can tell you if you owe me more money. Now, what I've represented to you and what's absolutely true, you can go talk to the clerk if you want to. It's not hard to prove. I don't turn in overages. I'm very conscientious about my time. I keep it down, in fact, to try to make sure that I'm not costing you any more than you budgeted. Your budget for the county attorney right now, about $212,000. I am in FRS as elected officers class. That's the only thing FRS will let us do. It's really nice retirement. Not going to lie to you. It costs you some money. Okay. That's the reason that I'm at where I'm at. Instead of going for an 11.84% adjustment, which is what you guys got, I said, let's round it down to 10. Let's catch it up. Let's get it into the realm of reason. Now, I want to address something because it's come up so many times, and I honestly don't know where the stories come from. CRC, I wrote them a letter. You guys got to figure out a way. Same time, every one of y'all got a chance to write a letter, at least the ones y'all were serving. What do you think should be approved about the charter? I said, you guys should come up with a way to determine how the county attorney gets paid to avoid this right here. The people should have decided how much I got paid. It was the recommendation of outside counsel, Lynn Hoshihara. Well, the county judge holds the bar card. He gets elected on a countywide basis. Let's use that. So this whole idea that I'm looking to get paid as much as a county judge, guys, I got news for you. I can give you counties with comparable population where county attorneys in salary are making over $220,000 a year. County judge ain't the standard for how much county attorneys get paid, okay? It's not. County judges get paid the same in every county in the state. County attorneys don't, okay? So what I'm trying to do here and what I've been very careful to do, and again, elephant in the room, this is uncomfortable. Nobody likes to do this. You guys wouldn't like to do this. Give me the adjustment to get me sort of caught up. Let's go ahead and say that the change is going to be on an index. And then in good faith, I'm not going to say that once I hit 880 hours, y'all get a bill. Go past 880 hours. Go 1,200 hours. Do whatever you feel like you need to do so the county gets the service it needs. And I'm not charging any more money. It's fair.
So why can't we just, the billing, why can't we just pay, I may be speaking out of turn, I may be dumb, but why can't we just pay you a certain salary? You can negotiate it with David and we don't have the billing issues and you just work for us.
Isn't that what this does?
Is this what that's what this does?
No, so this is the same thing as my old contract in the sense that
it
I
still has
got
billing.
my expenses, all my overhead and everything goes through the law office of Joel Foreman. And again, that's carryover from how Marlon did it. And so I think I know I talked, maybe I was talking to Rocky about it, but really the reason I keep private practice running is to keep the lights on in the building I'm in and to keep my insurance paid and all that kind of stuff so I can keep doing this. I'm not averse and I'm not opposed to the idea.
Board, I just believe, because even me, when I call Joe, I'm real hard, like I'm in a hurry. I'm trying to get him done. This is my opinion. Let's just make him full-time. Let's don't have billing. Let's just get a contract, get David to talk to him. Let's get this where we ain't having to worry about the taxpayer billing and all that. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's been a problem trying to figure out since Martin Page, Dwayne Thomas, and Marlon Fiegel with the same deal. So if we can negotiate a salary, then all this other stuff go away.
That's my opinion.
I do want to.
So I think what I'm hearing, we want to have David negotiate what it would take to make Joel a full-time county attorney.
Yeah.
Put him in an office and Joe, elaborate on that a little bit, what it would look like, you think?
So your whole budget for the county attorney's office right now is about $215,000. And that basically pays for me. There's no doubt about it. It's mostly the retirement that inflates that 118.8 all the way up to that number. So there's a lot of bump. And then y'all pay 75% of my rent. I think y'all know that about $800 or $900 a month y'all are paying right now to keep me in rent. And then I'll submit $100, $200 in expenses every 2 or 3 months, something like that. So it's not a lot right now. If you take me in-house, you got to provide everything for me. I don't know if I sent you guys the study, but I'll be happy to share it. If we take this thing further down the road, I'll show you the study that shows what other county attorneys who go in-house get paid for. Bar dues, CLEs, things like that, things I'm paying for now through my law. The difficult part, I'm sorry, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we authorize the county manager to sit down with Joel and work out a contract for him to be the full-time county attorney and bring it back to this board for approval.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second on that. But we still have the agenda item that we need to address also. I guess we can address, do we need to address that first before we take up that?
It would be my preference, Mr. Chair, if this is considered now, and then that goes ahead and takes care of this adjustment, just in case Mr. Kraus and I don't arrive on something. I'm telling you guys, I don't know what the number is going to be, but I don't want you to get sticker shock and then the whole thing gets thrown out and we're retreading this water. So if the board's inclined, if the board thinks this proposal's fair, I'd like to get that approved. And then again, I have expressed to y'all a willingness to go full-time for a while now. I'm happy to talk to David about it.
I move that we request for the county attorney.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, okay, we got to
So you can take care of that motion, but then.
What about if we just have Ron amend his motion to say he wants to make a motion, we approve your contract now, and with the understanding that David will consult with you to bring us back something to look at for a full-time county attorney.
If he'll make that amendment, and then the second.
Ron, are you okay with that?
I'm in.
Second.
So before we vote, Joel, just for clarification, the 11.8 on the extension, is that what you were asking for effective, I mean, immediately, not at budget time?
Yes, sir. It'd go into effect now. And then the
Okay.
first increase would be October 1st, whenever y'all's rates come out.
But all this is not, does not exist if we work out an agreement.
We would supersede this if we work out an agreement. Yes, sir.
You said the first increase would be when?
No.
Whenever y'all's salaries get adjusted, that's when mine would get adjusted. Whatever, y'all go from like 0.33%.
Should be annually with the budget.
Yeah, whenever the budget gets done.
But we should be able to work out something either way.
So when me and Rocky turned ours down, you gonna turn yours down?
I don't know if we can talk about it.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on, does anybody else have any comment on this? We have a motion and a second. The motion is to approve as proposed on the agenda for the salary for the new county attorney, with the understanding that Joel and David are going to sit down and bring us back something, what it would take for Joel to be full-time in a county office.
And if that fails, then you just stick with this.
Right, if that fails, we stick with this, that's correct.
Outside clients also.
But
No, well, yeah, with this contract, yes. Okay, yep.
And before y'all vote, that's a good point. If we decide to negotiate, it's gonna have to happen pretty quickly. It takes conservatively 90 days to wrap up a law firm. And I have things on the calendar for October right now that I'd have to deal with pretty quickly. So I would ask Mr. Kraus, I think he's happy to do it, but we'll probably move this ball pretty quickly.
I would suggest that we make this effective next fiscal year, October 1st, if we do go
The
this route.
full-time thing would have to start October.
You'll be able to do that, right?
I could do it if we figure it out pretty quickly and if we make a commitment that it's gonna happen, then I can start the process. There's form letters that have to go out and I have to notify a lot of people. So-
because the detail on your contract agreement, we're talking about the money part of it right now, and that's it.
Mhm.
Correct. You know, and I'm good with that. Yeah.
Okay, any more clarification? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioners. I appreciate it.
All right, let's move ahead. This time we have, Mr. Kirby, capital projects update.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have 6 items for your consideration tonight. We'll start off with capital projects. So out at the east side sewer expansion, that job's going well. Relocated the spray fields, waiting on permitting, preparing to go out to bid. Down at Ellisville Sewer, we'll be out to bid this month. Our problem child, the rail job on 90 East. So last time I talked to you, I told you that I'd been notified verbally that we potentially had a problem with signalization. I've now got that in writing. So to back up a minute, that job has went extremely well and is substantially complete. So the rail designed it, the rail told us what to do. We did exactly what they told us to do and we did it well. Come in on budget, almost done, basically punching the job out. They turned around there a couple months ago and says, by the way, we have concluded that the signalization is interfering with our main line, so we want to basically upgrade the brand new signalization that we just installed. That number come in at $550,000. I'm working with our county attorney right now to see who is the responsible party for that funding. Okay?
Kevin, I got one question. On the east side sewer expansion, you got estimated project cost 10.2 million. I thought we were at 13 on that.
Yes, sir, that is the grant amount. I've just not adjusted that. We're still putting some other numbers together for the HH and all that good stuff. That is the grant amount.
Okay.
We're still compiling numbers, even coming up. We've got all the estimations, but everything's wild and crazy, as everybody knows right now.
Well,
But with the compile, then
we're at about 13 and a half.
13 million.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, for you, this is a moving project, what I do for y'all on a quarterly
Right.
basis. And as we get on down, I want to indicate, we do remove, I had somebody ask me, well, I thought that was a different number in totality. When we complete a project, we just simply pull it off the list. So a lot of times you'll see it looks like, Lord, we got a lot to do, but we're not really talking about everything. We just pull it off the list. Okay? Clay Hole Creek, we're out to bid. Commissioner Murphy actually asked us to set up a workshop on the 15th of this month at 6 p.m. at CHS Auditorium. Anybody wants to go?
Town hall, not a workshop.
I'm sorry, town hall. Town hall.
Don't give me something.
Down at Wilson Springs, that's a lap project, it's a sidewalk project. The funds will be available in 2022. Out at Columbia High School, that's a sidewalk job. I'm glad for your consideration to approve the contract later this evening. Out on 242 West, the board just approved that a couple of weeks ago. It'll be going to construction immediately. 242 East is out to bid this month. Cypress Lakes and Charles. As of right now, both projects are good to go. Parnell Hills and High Dry Acres are both out for RFQ. So basically, you got about $30.8 million on the books. You've expended about 4.5, with 26.2 remaining. This is the list of your grant-funded projects. Okay.
RFQ for engineering?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And grant administration.
And for grant administration?
Yes, sir. Okay. Now on to your county-funded projects. Down at Fort White Ball Fields, we completed in June. We saved a little money on that job. Annie Maddox, the original project is complete. We came in front of the board here maybe a month ago, put a few add-ons. We'll be complete with that July 1. Women's Club is complete. We basically are waiting on the city of Lake City for their portion of reimbursement. Cell 5 sand. We lack about 33 cubic yards left to haul. And I actually put later on this evening another presentation for the landfill as it relates to Cell 5. Lake City Animal Shelter. Waiting on completion of buildings. We'll go in, dress up, do the site work. Out at Southside, our parking lot. Here a while back, you heard about closed basins, open bases, things of that nature. That is affecting us on that job. We finally got clarification. We're in the design phase.
Well, how did that work out?
So basically, we just completed the Canning Creek project. So we're going to build a 1 acre parking lot. We're going to construct a small holding pond there. And we're going to increase the pond at Canning Creek by just a little bit that we just completed.
So we're not going to have to build that parking lot up?
We are not now.
Okay.
We're doing some modifications to ensure we don't do that.
Okay.
But before I get off of that, based on everything we are having to do, and I'll get on down to cover the RC track. If we remember, we had $400,000 allocated for all of these projects. And we listed them: parking lot, field renovations, the shade structure. So field renovation, we're moving forward with that. Shade structure, we're simply waiting on installation. On the RC track, we're waiting on an updated cost, but within a week and a half, I'll have the final numbers on the parking lot. I'm of the opinion that RC track will not make the cut. I think we're going to run out of money before we get there.
Well, didn't I see where they had raised some funds for that, the RC track people?
Yes, sir, you are correct, but nowhere near. Bottom line, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, we had 400 grand to start off with, and after going down this big checklist, a lot's already been completed. I just don't think we're going to get to that, but
Okay.
we'll see by the next time I come back in front of you guys.
All right.
Okay?
Curtis,
Let's see. Sir,
the Women's Club, do that number there is part of the additional money the board approved for the front canopy?
yes, sir, that's everything inclusive. We are complete with that job in totality. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, if you recall, Commissioner, the city owes us 50%. That's the only reason I've still got it up there. Okay? Petroleum cleanup out of Public Works, we're on hold by DEP. The vertical grinder out at the jail, we should be complete by July. The Columbia County Jail, I'm going to do a separate presentation after this one, if that's acceptable. Mayo Road, survey is complete. We're in the design phase. Burley and Pine Mount is substantially complete, basically final striping paperwork. That turned out to be a good job. Crawford Court, we're putting it on hold to knock out some of these smaller ones. Double Run, surveying will be complete in July. We'll determine if we have to acquire property or not.
Question,
Yes, sir.
have the survey been done yet?
No, sir. Commissioner Williams, for whatever reason, I've been told it's the housing market. Surveying is just running about 4 to 8 weeks behind on we can't get it done fast enough. Mr. Kraus and I were talking earlier about a separate project. It's a surveying issue right now. All the surveyors are just bombarded. But I should have it done in July.
And you gonna take care, what his name now on the property we want? Ava Roberts? You gonna talk to Ava?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, Cheshire Road is out tonight for your consideration in a little bit. Indian Springs is out to bid. Wildflowers out to bid. Kick Ladder, I'll be back at the final meeting in August with it. Butler's out to bid. Treasure is out to bid. I've run myself. English LM Aaron, once again, surveying should be complete in July, determine if we need property there. And Hillcrest will go out in July. So your county funded side of things, we're at 19.9, 7.2 expended, 12.6 remaining. That concludes what's currently funded on your capital projects. What's on the radar being talked about, if you may, I'm going to do a separate presentation as it relates to class 3 and class 1 out at the landfill. A bit of a housekeeping at the current jail, courthouse elevator, sheriff's admin facilities, the flat fields of 500 acres for 17.5 million. That's where we're currently at with our capital projects.
What all does the 5 million cover at Vasco North for flat fields?
That was a very early estimation of the conceptual, getting everything kicked off, you may. That's been the number.
Because we don't even have a plan together yet. So that money's just set aside right now for that, or?
No,
or it's just, that's just,
We might have to set aside.
No,
so basically that's just there for us to.
What that list indicates, Mr. Chairman, and there's some other ones, but those are projects talked about enough that I've reduced to writing.
Right.
David has another list and they're about as long as my leg.
I mean, I'm just looking at, I know we're gonna have to do the landfill, but.
Yes, sir. Now I'll discuss the jail and landfill in depth in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. That concludes the capital project side of things, Mr. Chair. And I would like to throw one thing out there. We're talking a lot about salaries. Obviously, there's a lot of money in all these capital projects. And I think staff does a real good job with it. I would just like to echo, I would really appreciate this board taking a real close look at salaries for our employees this year. Okay. Okay, with that, I have permission to move on to the jail, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So for everybody's knowledge, we're in the guts of a 256 bed housing pod addition out of the jail. We had a 16+ million guaranteed maximum price. What does that mean? At the end of the day, we should never go over $16,072,000. As we're going along with this construction job, we've been fortunate enough to be able to add a couple of things. That is a secured vestibule and a rec yard. So not inclusive of the $16 million, way back during the design phases, they talked about a vestibule, $227,000. We brought it down to $68,000. We talked about a rec yard. It did not get approved. We worked it in at $41,000. Now basically, with any construction job of this size, you got highs and lows. We've been fortunate enough, we're still in good shape financially, even with adding those two things. So where are we at today? Precast sales, first floor slab, metal roof complete, first floor masonry at 80%, metal building panels and trim 70%, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC rough in, second floor decking, slabs, and masonry 40%. This slide I'm very proud of. So in my world, the only way I can keep up with everything is kind of money versus time. So we're 6 months of site work, 12 months of building, you got an 18-month project. Today we're on 274, of 508, or roughly 50%. And we've expended about $8 million, which is about half of 16 million. So I'm very proud tonight to say that the jail's on schedule with time and money. And I want to really thank our chairman, Captain Douglas and Sheriff Hunter. This is a good team effort. The job's coming in real good thus far, okay? So we did our site work. Yes, sir.
Go back to the ordinance.
Right there.
One more. Start all over with the ordinance on the
Recreational.
okay. That is the amount on the ordinance was, I thought we were gonna bill for X amount not to exceed X amount of dollars. Apparently, during the discussion, some way or another that those, I call them safety walls, was left off. But we'll end up gonna pay $41,000. Is that right?
Mr. Williams, here's the best way I can explain it. When the job was all getting put together, they weren't satisfied with the guaranteed maximum price at that time. It was above the 16 million. So they went out and cut out anything that they thought was possible to drive that guaranteed price down. These were two things that were cut out to get to that $16 million.
Who cut them out?
I was not part of that process at the time, sir. I can't answer that.
We did. Well, they were presented as an alternate at the time. That come to find out, they couldn't be an alternate. It's one reason why we had to add them back. But we have worked with Captain Douglas, like Kevin said. They first come back with $227,000 for these secure vegetables. Working with Captain Douglas and the engineers and Ajax, we've got that price down to $67,740. And the rec yard, you said it was $68,533. We got that down to $41,29. But we still will come in on our price, that was our guaranteed maximum price. With our sales tax we're saving.
And other things. We've been fortunate enough to save on multiple aspects that we were able to fit that kind of stuff in. We're still on track and a little bloody.
We're still not gonna go over our budget.
You're correct.
So we're not gonna go with 16 million something.
No.
Commissioner Williams, that's what I was saying earlier. This slide right there, I'm so proud of that. That was just not one person. This is a team effort. We're roughly 50% on time and 50% on money. The job's on track time-wise and money-wise.
But you know, the only thing that gives me hiccups, if the contractor or the designer, ever who was in charge of that, shouldn't yield to us cutting it out when they knew it had to be there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I understand.
I mean, they should have been looking after our best interest on designing it. And if they know that by law that what we having to do, all that had to be there, they should have stood their ground and say, guys, this got to be here.
Commissioner, we had, Chairman, you can echo if you desire, we had multiple arguments and days of conversation on this.
I agree with you, but you know, is that a fight we want to fight legally? I mean, if we do, that's something we can take up once it's complete. But I think they have been very generous with us, working with us. So, you know.
Well, it goes, tell me if they're going to eat that much loss, going to cut the price. If they say it costs this amount and they're going to do it for way a third of what it's going to cost, how much fat they got in the 16 million?
Well, it was bid out, Commissioner Williams. That's all I can tell you. You know, it was all in the contract of what subcontractors bid it out for, and then Ajax is what their percentage was to build it. So,
I know. I just don't. All right, I'm through.
Okay.
I'm doing the best I can with the situation I was handed. I think at this time we got a good project going. So, yeah.
Okay. So of course, we did our subsoil excavation, we did our site work and all. We kicked the building off in February. So here's kind of what we're looking like in February, digging footers, conduit, et cetera. Right on delivering the pods. So basically, the end of February, we had our precast sales set, first floor slab prep started, first floor underground electrical complete. We expended about $3.4 million. Here we are in March. By the end of March, the first floor slab was complete, the metal building framing completed, first floor masonry, plumbing and electrical rough in, about $4 million in total. In April, we completed the metal roof, first floor masonry in progress, plumbing and electrical rough in, a little over $5 million. Here we are in May. HVAC ductwork started, second floor concrete started, second floor masonry started, metal building panels at 70%. We haven't finished up the paperwork for May yet. Okay. So what are we looking at for the next 90 days? Metal building siding, second floor decking. Lord, I cannot see that writing. We're going to set the stairs, install the ductwork, electrical, plumbing, sprinkler overhead, frame and hang skylights, air conditioning units, hallway roofing, start the ceiling framing and decking. So that's where we're at on the jail. A good report tonight with a few hiccups, but all in all, a good project.
Chairman, again, like I say, I would like to say Captain Douglas has worked very hard on this project also, trying to save the county money, and I just can't say enough for how helpful he's been and how good it's been to work with him on this.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of concludes where we're at with capital projects, inclusive of your big project, the jail. Any questions about all that? Okay. The landfill. My team and I have been working for several months now to finally be able to come with a good presentation for you of what we're doing out in the landfill. We'll start off with class 1. That's where your household garbage goes. So we lack about 455,000 cubic yards of capacity, or about 6 years of life. What is it going to cost in 6 years? And obviously, guys, this is one of those deals we have to be building and be ready for it. We can't just start building when we run out of space. So our new class 1 cell 5 will be roughly 10 acres. You've got the design side at 485, pre-construction work at 500,000, CEI 165, 6.6 million of construction, totaling 7.75. Now, I'll only say it one time, but I put it on all these slides. That's at today's prices. Okay. I feel like this is a very conservative number. This is important because when we get into class 3, there's a significant difference that the last time I discussed this, I was unsure of, was it going to be that way or not? I'll start from the top to the bottom of what's in a class 1 landfill. You've got a specialized sand at 2 foot thick, a specialized clay at 6 inches thick, a leachate collection liner, leachate detection liner, and then a double geomembrane liner. So at the end of the day, you'll wind up with a new 10-acre cell with roughly 1.1 million cubic yards or 14.5 years of new life. So assuming we continue down this path, we got roughly 20 years from now to when we're worried about it again. Okay? That's class 1, and that's pretty easy. Class 3, yes,
With
sir.
with all the equipment you got out there, you can knock that out in 2 or 3 weeks, couldn't you?
I'll be done by tomorrow.
Okay.
Positive, right? Before we get into class 3, I think it's very important to note we do have a waste flow control ordinance. What does that mean? All garbage, industrial waste, C and D, generated in Clement County, will be disposed of at Winfield Solid Waste Facility. We all know that's not happening. I don't know how you stop it. The reason I wanted to put this up here is very important as we go down this path of class 3. So here's what I did. I dropped a balloon on Winfield Solid Waste. I went 115 miles in a circumference. Theoretically, a semi-truck driving 115 miles, if you go over that, it becomes cost prohibitive of transportation versus disposal. I just want to say, go 115 miles, semi-haul that if I'm getting a much lower rate. 20 Class 3 landfills within 115 miles of us. 15 of the 20 do accept outside garbage, okay? So for lack of a better word, if we don't enforce the flow ordinance, that is your competition, okay? Now, once I studied it, all those folks are gonna be in the same boat we're in when they upgrade, right? All these new conditions. And that's why I'm trying to be very proactive as we go through this presentation. I'm of the opinion we need to secure the permits, et cetera, stuff like that. So we're, for lack of a better word, grandfathered in. Because of all the research we've done, the rules are continually getting stronger on Class 3. Now, just for definition purposes, a C and D landfill versus a Class 3 are two separate things. The easiest way I can put it to us, if you're tearing this building down, that is completely C and D. If you're getting the byproduct of Blue Links or Homes of Merit, et cetera, that is considered industrial waste. A Class 3 can handle both of it. A C and D can only handle C and D. When we get through with all of this, there might be a way we need to go and build a little C and D out there at Winfield, because it's basically minimum requirements. But this is important. We've got 15 of our 20 folks within 115 miles of circumference that will take Class 3 material. So where are we at with Class 3? We like about 485,000 cubic yards or 8 years of life. So what does it cost to build a new Class 3? $4.655 million, okay? Remember earlier, I went from top to bottom at Class 1. Let's do the same thing here. You got your special sand, your special clay. You only have that one single leachate collection liner, not a detection liner, and you only have one geomembrane liner, not double, okay? So basically, what will you get out of that? 17 acres versus the 10, 2.367, 2 million cubic yards, 2.3 million cubic yards, or 56 years of life, assuming at the rate we're today. So Class 1, earlier when I talked to y'all about this, they were leading me down the path that was going to be equivalent to Class 1. It's not. 10 acres, 7.75, 17 acres at your 4.6, okay? Here's where the numbers are going to get tricky. I did a 3-year average. It caught on the operating budget only at the landfill today, Class 1 and Class 3, about 2.766 annually. Same average, 3.598 of revenue with a positive balance of about $840,000. So we talked about it all. We said 7.75 for Class 1 in 6 years, 4.655 in 8 years at Class 3. That's $12.4 million. We got 5.7 in the bank now. That leaves you 6.6 of a balance, or $912,000 annually, which is $80,000 negative. So in conclusion, in the next 6 to 8 years, using today's prices, to build your new Class 3, to build your new Class 1, and Mr. Chairman, we do excavate all the holes. We do everything we can in-house.
Yeah.
This is all outside. You're looking at about an $80,000 deficit, assuming all the revenues stay the same, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to paint a bad picture here. We got good reserves. I'm going to comment on Mr. Williams. Dale, I think way back in the day, he was very smart the way he escrowed. That's why the landfill's never been a problem. And over the grand scheme of things, it's not a problem today. That's what it's going to cost to fund moving forward in the future. 6 to 8 years from now, to construct Class 1, Class 3.
So my question is, do we need to put $80,000 a year now in escrow on top of the landfill fund? Is that what you're recommending?
Commissioner Witt, what I'm basically advising you here tonight during the budget process, we'll take a look. Do we want to leave all of our reserve accounts, all of that contingencies, all that whole, find another 80 grand to supplement that so we're whole as we go along? It's just good proactive planning. I think tonight it's a little early to say, board, we need to do something. I'm just painting a picture. This is where you're at today.
I believe that's a total cost, not a per year cost.
This is one of those.
Sir,
It's a total cost, not a per year cost.
that's 80,000 per year.
Per year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's per year.
That'd be
This is one of those situations like Ron always talks about where they didn't seize it when it was time to seize it. And now this is going to put us, what, 56 years?
Yes, sir. When you got 6 years left, 8 years, I'm sorry, 8 years in class 3. But 8 years goes by in a blink. And the biggest thing I think we need to do is go ahead and secure all the necessary permits and all, because I'm of the opinion 4 years from now, I think there's going to be a different set of rules. I think it is going to get more stringent. I think that number's just going to go up.
Ron,
It's
you'll be
important to go
happy in your
forward.
43rd term when it's 56 years.
Here is what I do know. That Kevin was talking about within 100-mile radius, how many landfills except class 3. That seemed tempting in a sense of speaking, but it's two things this county should never be without. That's their own landfill and own jail. Because when you don't have a jail, you're at the mercy of who you contracting with. When you don't have a landfill, you're at the mercy of whoever collecting your solid waste collector. So there, Kevin, and I got to get with you on the expansion of class 1. I know it's gonna go to the west of the landfill, central landfill. Now it's gonna go to the west.
Yes, sir. The current one's the furthest one to the north. This is the last one, remember?
But that's the one that is not gonna go any further in the community.
Yes, sir. We've already dug most of class cell 5 now.
Mhm.
This is going to give you another 20 years of life in class 1. After all of that, right, what I told you, the 6 and the 14.
Mhm.
So we got 6 years where we're at. I'm digging on cell 5 now, which is the last one to the north, right?
Mhm.
That's going to give you 14 more years. That gives you 20 years. Then we got to go west.
All right, and here's my concern. And hopefully I'm still sitting on this board in 12 years.
I have
But,
no doubt.
But there is that one house that's sitting right at the corner of the landfill property that we got to make sure that we either buy them out or don't encroach on them. And there's no way to keep them encroaching on that one family. So it's something that we're gonna have to look at down the road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions on that? Let's move on to tippage fees.
Okay. The other day, we were doing workshops, and I'd like to remind this board, we just got that contract in a week or two before that workshop. So what did we learn? We're currently at $115 per ton as it relates to tires. We average 14 tons per load. By the time we load, haul, and dispose, that's about $2,200 a load. Break that down by the tonnage, that's $159 a ton, or $43 plus loss per ton, currently what we're charging. So at the 115 current, I'm recommending 165. Once again, $2,200 to get rid of at 165 times 14 yields 2310, or a net profit of $87 roughly on our side if we take it to $165 a ton. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I'm recommending a motion to approve the new waste tire tippage fee to $165 per ton and resolution 2021R-09.
So moved as stated.
A second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do think that with the increase on that there should be a sign posted at the weigh scale, advertising this new increase, the new price per ton.
Okay.
So people have a chance to see that the cost is going up.
Kevin, can you take care of that?
Yes, sir.
Put an effective date on it.
Yes, sir. I will. Okay. The next item, Mr. Chairman, is Thomas Camp realignment. The map on the next slide indicates the proposed realignment of Northeast Thomas Camp Road. In-kind for clearing and grubbing will be performed by Public Works if this project is approved at a cost of $27,845. We'll need another $9,000 for surveying and flagging out of your annual resurfacing account. This road is up on 441 North, slightly south of Deep Creek. This is a paved road that ends and regains the dirt. It's very obvious, the little S-curve right there. The intent is to straighten that curve out. This property was acquired many, many years ago by the county. For whatever reason, the project stayed stagnant. Commissioner Williams brought it to my attention for safety concerns. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, we're asking to approve the realignment of the estimated in-kind services of $27,845 performed by Public Works, surveying and flagging for $9,000. It will be paid for the annual resurfacing account.
Well, Guy, you all don't know how hard it is to get property from the U.S. Forestry, but I almost had a head-on between the school bus and a truck a couple of weeks back. So since we had the right-of-way there, I want just to realign that road and take that dogleg curve out of it. I've been had that right-of-way for quite a while now. I move that we allocate the recommended motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment?
I doing my research. This thing, Ron, y'all have had this thing for 03 or 04, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next item is this 252 sidewalk out by Columbia High School. We have 3 responsive bidders. Kurt's Construction was low. This is a lap project. We're recommending an approved bid and contract to Kurt's Construction in the amount of $277,294.23.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And my final item, Cheshire Lane Bid Award. We had 3 responsive bidders. John C. Hip was low bidder at $219,199. The second responsive bidder was $228,755. Anderson Columbia did request to invoke the local preference rule. The numbers are within 5%. Therefore, recommend a motion to approve bid and contract to Anderson Columbia Company in the amount of $228,755.94.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Kraus.
Yes, sir.
Good job, Kevin.
I will go fast.
You're a good man. I don't care what they say about you.
Folks here that have made it this long, they stayed here so that if you have any questions for them, they're able to answer them. First one will be Paula. She's up first, which is the regional park. Whoop, wrong way. So basically, they went out and did 2020W for a master plan for the 500-acre park. They got 6 responses. They went through it. They had an evaluation committee who picked the top 2. The top 2 firms were Stantec and TBG Partners. Those 2 committees then did a presentation to the evaluation committee and also the Tourist Development Council. At this time, basically, we're recommending that you approve the final ranking. The recommendation of the TDC was to go with TBG Partners. The cost of the proposed contract is about $330,000.
So move. Recommended motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Next one, unpaid leave. This is something that happens because our policy requires them to, in writing, ask you for this unpaid leave. We have an employee. He is a full-time employee. He's been out sick on workers' comp due to an injury. He's run out of all his leave, FMLA leave, sick leave, vacation leave, and he's still out on workers' comp. He's asking for you to give him unpaid leave until 7/30/2021 or released by a physician. This is an ADA accommodation.
Move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
As you know, we have the state of emergency for COVID. It's been going on a long time. We're basically now asking you to end the state of emergency.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is based on your agenda this afternoon in the workshop. If you wanted to make any comments, motions, considerations on the administrative code.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the revised administrative code as discussed during our workshop.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment?
We're clear on everything. Yeah, everything's understood and, yeah. So you'll bring that back for the adoption. Okay.
And, let us know where you place the 911 addressing, I guess,
And code enforcement.
And code enforcement.
and code enforcement. Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is on the ARPA funds. You can make a motion if you want to approve anything from this afternoon's discussion on the ARPA funds.
You just gonna bring us, you gonna place these, the amount into categories that we talked about? And,
Right, as long as you're comfortable
And
with
it brings
that.
the plan back.
Need a motion? Do we need a motion? I think we can go with the
Do we need a
direction.
motion for that?
I think we gave direction. Yep.
We're good? All right.
Okay.
That then leads to the financial officer position. A long time ago, when I started this, you said, fill this position. We tried to fill the position with existing positions that existed on the books. Unfortunately, those salaries made it such that we could not find a qualified individual. So we're basically taking the salary that was the salary for the position Lacey Boatwright had, and we rewrote the job description. We're asking you to approve the job description, approve the position, and approve the pay grade, and then we'll go out and advertise. We're pretty sure we can fill it this time.
So David, just for clarification, you're saying this pay grade will be what Lacey was making?
Yes.
Pretty close?
Yes.
I move that we approve the new position description, authorization of position and insertion in the general pay grade schedule on pay grade 138.
Second that motion. Very important position to be filled.
Yep.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Finally, almost finally, building and zoning position reclassification. Basically, when you hire new inspectors, and you found out how expensive it is to hire inspectors, and we approved the increase in the fee, they're asking for a reclassification to make the department work and to make it move forward as we go forward. End of the day, they want to take an administrative secretary position, convert it to a permit specialist position in the current fiscal year. That'll have a current year impact of $5,060.55. They want to take an administrative secretary position and turn it into a lead permit specialist position next year upon the retirement of existing personnel. That will have an impact in next year's budget of about $39,551.50. You have a chief building inspector and other building inspectors, and they want to create the chief building inspector position. So instead of having 1, 2s, and 3s, they have building inspectors and one chief building inspector. So there's one chief, and then the other building inspectors would just be building inspectors rather than building officials 2 and 3 and 1.
I move to approve Building and Zoning Department's request to add and reclassify position titles and to revise position descriptions and pay grades and to upgrade and to update authorized department positions.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right, last item is the meeting in July. The first meeting is on the 1st. You'll be at FAC. 4th of July is that weekend. We have 2 options. We talked about it earlier. We just want to finalize it, make sure it's what the board wants to do. The options are to cancel it and just have one meeting in July, or to move the meeting to July 8th and possibly move the second meeting a week as well to keep your week gaps.
Basically,
Question is,
instead
you
of
want
the
one
first and the
meeting, 2
third,
meetings?
we'll be meeting the second and the fourth. If y'all want to do that, or we can cancel it completely.
We be meeting when now?
Basically, instead of meeting the first and the third Thursday, we'll meet the second and the fourth Thursday.
Your attorney has a comment.
I have to attend all meetings, and I didn't know we were going to do that. I am going to be out of town on that 4th Thursday. So if the board can do the second and the third weeks, I can make sure I'm at both
Why
of
don't we
those.
just cancel it?
And we can,
just say, or you can
if the board
cancel.
sets it, we'll make it happen.
We've dealt with this for the last 4.5 years. I make the motion, just cancel the meeting. And if something important comes up, we can always call a special meeting.
Second,
for
yes,
whatever
sir.
reason.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much. That's everything.
that's
Thank
it.
you guys for staying through the whole meeting.
Thank y'all. Okay, we'll open up public comment at this time. Come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for hearing me again. Russ Adler, District 1, Cheshire Lane, Gilbert Court. I just wanted to address the board to get some clarity and hopefully some accountability on what I addressed last time I was here a few months back about the CDBG grant. I want to know what the status is and what the process is to put this thing to bed. My final survey is done. It was turned in. Mr. Kraus has acknowledged receipt. I believe you're going to try and get that additional 25% funding from the state again, which I believe you guys said to move forward to go with the offers. So as far as going with DEO, I brought in a series of emails. So back on January 6th, I asked very similar questions I was referred to the person when he was promoted, the gentleman, I don't want to say his name in a public forum without him being here to defend himself, but the person who took over Mr. Krause's position as far as negotiating the grant, asked a series of questions. I'm not going to read them all for time constraints, but what was the process? What was the timeline? I got an answer by phone to a couple of questions, never got a timeline. The timeline has always been for the last 2.5 years, in a couple of months, in a couple of months, in a couple of weeks, in a couple of weeks. 2.5 years later, we're still not there. As far as DEO, I copied Mr. Williams. You and I spoke on the phone a couple of times about this. I've copied Mr. Kraus, the DEO guys who were over it. Mr. Hartley, who's Mr. Brannon's legislative assistant, and still no answers. I've used the term several times. He can confirm it for you. Not you guys in particular, but somebody is living up to the mass. Continue just for a moment. Someone's living up to the low expectations of government. We're acting like Washington, D.C. here, and it's unacceptable. I have a personal vested interest in this. I mentioned to the board last time, being 4 tours overseas in 2 war zones, Afghanistan and Iraq, is much more predictable and safer than waiting for the next hurricane or storm to come and get flooded out and be ran off from your home. Having everything you own destroyed is a pretty traumatic event, and I'm trying to avoid that again. We've had the appraisals done, had to get reappraised because there was death in the family and some inheritance issues. So when are you going to authorize offers to be made to where we can move to clothing? We've discussed it several times. I'm begging you guys, give me some clarity, give me some direction, give me a timeline.
David?
Basically, the problem has been the CDBG grant. They keep changing personnel. They don't know what they're doing. There's 11 counties got the grant. None of them have gotten funding. If we just did the HMGP grant, which is the majority of the funding, we could do it tomorrow.
Didn't we approve that at the last meeting?
But we had to wait for the new appraisal.
New appraisals.
So do we
And
have
we're
that?
still waiting on Mr. Roundtree's appraisal. Mr. Roundtree unfortunately had to leave early. He also is very concerned about the hurricane season being here and not getting done. We hired Chandler Moses and Sauer appraisals to both do appraisals so that we could hopefully get these done.
On Mr., excuse me, David, on Mr. Roundtree's, Saucer, whoever the appraiser is, did they give a day?
We did both, and I'll check back with them tomorrow.
What's that now?
We did both, both Chandler Moses and Sauer appraisals.
So can we go ahead and allocate his money?
Yeah, let's get it.
I mean, do we have to do them all at the same time? If he's ready, can we go ahead and do his?
So what we will do next then is we'll hire a title company to start the closing process. What DEO is basically saying is they're wanting us to not do anything until the environmental review is done. We're arguing if we're not using their money, it shouldn't matter.
And on this environmental review, I'm going to be like Russ. I'm not going to mention names and stuff, but when I talk to this one and this one and this one, and you got emails over this one here is not doing, the people doing environmental reviews just as big of a responsibility, their responsibility of holding this thing up just like DEO is.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make that point because No, I want to tell you, these people have been and fortunately, I've never sat through I've been several hurricanes, but never a flood out. But it's, I went and helped people get out of them and stuff like that, but it's not like living in that home.
What's the quickest way to get
we
it?
move
Quickest
forward.
way is if we don't worry at all about the CDBG and just, we can do the demolitions with in-kind labor like we originally planned to.
David, I know we've been dealing with this since I've been here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before
So
that.
I say let's wrap this up. We'll do the demolition and be done with it.
I'll
What
make
we'll
that-
do then is we can make offers to all the people in the project, and those that accept, we then can hire a closing agent and go to closing.
I'll
Come
make
on.
that, I'll put that in
Did
the
you all
motion.
have a comment or anything?
Are we a recipient or subrecipient on this grant?
We are a subrecipient.
And is
From
the
HMGP.
is the administrator or outside administrator the one that's kind of flopping around on this?
Well, the HMGP people are fine.
Yeah.
The FEMA people are absolutely fine. Let's get going. Let's do this. It's the community development block grant people.
So what's the price
It's the
difference?
state people that have been the problem.
So what's what grant funds are they giving up if they go forward?
Demolition, right?
About 281,000
Yeah.
in
Do
match
it.
funds.
Let's do it.
They still get 890 something thousand from HMGP. It just means like the last time, we'll have to self-perform the demolitions of the houses.
Just do it.
Once we own the property, we've got some time then to,
What's the motion?
Well, there's no,
Before you make, can I mention?
Already made a motion?
Hang on, hang on.
Respond to Mr. Murphy and Mr. Attorney, and you'll be,
oh yeah.
need to hear this. So regarding the environmental review, I was told by the other person that's on the state, you're mentioning, it's on the state, it's on the state, it's on the state. I got an email that says the environmental review will be done by February 5th. We had a storm come through, water came in my backyard. This was March 15th. I have the emails here I can share with all you guys. I said, hey, did that environmental review ever get done? I think that, I was told that was the last step that needed to happen for those matching funds to be granted, awarded, facilitated. Crickets, no response. Someone's accountable for that. That's what I'm here for. I'm not only here for my personal interest. I'm here for you guys to dig deeper and come up with an explanation, because I use the term, tell me who's responsible. I will go after that person. How many times have I volunteered to walk through? I will take this folder to Tallahassee. I will go to your office and take the legal documentation to Washington, D.C. I have a personal interest. I'm volunteering. Like I said earlier regarding the advisory board, if I had that much personal interest in it, I would do it at no charge. If the county has to charge, I'll do it for $1. And
David,
it's
what is
falling on deaf
what's the
ears.
ramifications of us not following the protocol that the state wants us to follow on the initiation of the grant and do it the way we're talking about doing it?
if what we're talking about is not using the CDBG funding, there's no ramifications. All that happens is if you do work on the site, if you do things they tell you you can't do, they won't give you your money.
So we're in the budget where the money comes from to buy everybody out of. We're not gonna use,
It would be in kind, it would have to be for
How many of these houses are they that we're
I
working
think
with?
it's like 10 or 11.
And these are all improved properties that'll be demolished.
Yes,
Okay.
they're in flood zones.
But the HMGP money is for the acquisition most.
The acquisition and demolition.
CDBG
The
is-
demolition is the match part. So that's why the CDBG was being used for match.
But the HMGPs were most of the money for actually acquiring the properties is
Right.
coming from.
So we can buy the property.
That's more than $800,000.
That's why I said we can buy the property and choose to tear it down. and
So we can buy the
Right.
property, we just got to in-kind turn it down, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
You got to spend 230,000. You lose $230,000.
Or in kind. And we'll look at those options.
Let's proceed.
Yeah.
I have a motion from Mr. Murphy to move forward with the offers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Hold a minute. Let me get a clarification here on the motion. If we're gonna move forward, are we saying that we just gonna do everything ourselves and forget about the grant?
No.
No, all we do is tear the houses down. We're losing $230,000. We still get the 800-something to buy the
We're
property.
losing $230,000.
HMGP will pay for, oh, Kevin has a question.
How many houses are we talking about tearing down?
Well, it's 10 to 11, but we can tear them, once we own the property, we can tear them
I
down.
just want clarification of time sensitivity and.
No.
Okay, no time sensitivity.
Well, it's time sensitive to him.
I think I'm gonna be tasked with tearing a bunch of houses.
Yeah,
down.
but once he's paid so he can buy, he don't care when his house is
I'm
torn
gonna
down.
tell you, on my property, I'm taking my house with me. You don't have to tear mine down. That's
Okay.
money in your pocket. I'll tear it
Yes, sir,
down
but
for you.
obviously to be part of a grant process, the intent is to end the problem.
Right.
I mean, so they gotta be torn down.
It's just like
irregardless of
Star
cost.
Bet.
So under HMGP, so everybody knows, once we acquire using HMGP funds, that land can never be used for residential purposes again, whether there's a house on it or not.
Right.
So the county might make the decision to board up some of these homes or until we can find a way to get
Mr.
it.
Foreman, I
That's
recall
not gonna work,
something like this
boarding them
happened
up.
one time.
That's not gonna work,
We
both them
didn't
up.
tear it down. There was an issue. I just recall it, but
I'm talking about just for the time sensitivity that Mr. Adler's having, it's getting the HMGP funds released, right?
Yes.
And we can do that.
So we can go ahead and acquire the houses.
Is there any, okay.
And David,
I think I hear what the board's saying. I just don't, if we need to get him paid to acquire his land and we have the appraisals, I think we need to be careful.
So it's not time sensitive, so we can wait on the other money, the 230, or
Well, I think what David's saying, if we proceed with buying the property, we're not gonna get that grant.
that's gone.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
And then
And based on the death in Mr. Adler's family, it affects our low mod income calculation as well.
explain that.
CDBG requires 51% low mod income. So 51% of the households have to be low mod income. I guess another mother-in-law passed away. She was the low mod income person. With her passing away, we would have to redo that calculation. So we could lose the grant anyway.
That's on the DEO side, correct?
That's on the DEO side.
But basically, for $230,000,
They don't care how much money you make. They're worried about repetitive flooding. They don't want to pay to fix. a house.
Okay.
so for $230,000 though, you fix 11 people's problems. I mean, so let's do it.
Okay, Commissioner
That's a
Williams,
lot of money.
you understand what the motion is now?
I understand what motion is, but $250,000 is a lot of money just to
Mr.
throw
Williams,
away.
there's $800,000 to pay for it, and that's gonna cover most, if not
That'll
all.
cover the acquisition.
That's gonna cover the acquisitions.
We're just going to demo ourselves.
And some
Yeah, but we
people,
got to pay the tippage fee and all that to dispose of it. We can't waive our own tippage fee, so let's go deeper than just signed it, in a sense of speaking.
Pay
We
our,
can't waive our own tippage fee.
so we pay ourselves.
and just like, I'm sorry, Ron, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I'm finished.
Is there a
Uh,
time limit to how
but-
long you can get the house off there?
Not with HMBT.
There'll be an end of the period of performance. We can ask for an extension due to the extenuating circumstances.
We'll blame it on COVID. They'll give us 10
We'll
years.
blame it on the state. CDBG.
But my point is that just like Mr. Adler's, not every one of these parcels are a stick-built structure,
That is
correct?
correct.
Okay, and a lot of these mobile homes are coming off of it. Russ is taking his with him, correct, Russ? Yeah. And sister-in-law, probably same thing, whatever, I don't know. I don't even know what's there. But
Last time we did that, it had to be counted as program income.
say again?
I'll yield, Mr.
Last time
Chairman.
we did that was Sparbeth, when we sold the house, it had to be counted as
Ready to
program
go.
income.
I'll yield.
Okay.
You yield?
Yeah, I'll yield.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, any more comment? 2-minute comment?
I thought we had that solved at last meeting.
I thought we did too.
When the appraisal come back, it's done deal.
You know, they're all
Yeah, I
sitting at
know,
home.
I
They're all
know.
sitting at home, not working
Hey,
in their
hey,
offices.
this is what we don't need to forget.
And they ain't gonna do that.
There's an environmental deal out there that somebody owes us money because they ain't got done.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you
My
state
name
your
is Eddie
name?
Mae Walker, and I am the president of the Columbia County Women Club. I want to address the chairman and the board, and I want to thank you all for all the monies that was allocated for our buildings. I also am here tonight to invite you all, please put on your calendar, June 12th, we're having a meet and greet and reopening celebration at the Columbia County Women Club. The address is 655 Martin Luther King Drive. I would like for you all to come, meet our members. We have a little celebration to go on and some refreshments, and we welcome you.
What time?
What time is it, man?
At 5 o'clock, I'm sorry. It's
June
5
12th at 5 o'clock?
June 12th, 5 p.m.
Remind me.
Okay, and for the record, if you want to address the board again, if you'll just get with David and put it on the agenda, you won't have to wait through the whole meeting to.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I wanted, this is my first time coming to a meeting and I wanted to stay and, well, no, this is my third time. But anyway, I wanted to just,
Well, I appreciate you coming and sitting through all this
Yeah,
and
you shouldn't have said.
inviting us to this. Yes,
Project turned out good too.
thank you.
okay. You all have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? What's any 2-minute comment?
You done run everybody off.
About everybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, you have
Whoa, whoa,
anything?
whoa, whoa, whoa.
What? Who?
You don't want that. Thank you. Don't say that yet.
Yeah. All right, Ron, you have anything?
No, sir.
Clerk?
No, ma'am. I mean, no, sir.
Commissioner Oliver?
I got a sore butt.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Good.